Hi, everyone. Tony from Hack the Movies here. And Daredevil is coming back to Disney Plus this time. And I thought it would be a good idea to go back and watch the Daredevil movie from 2003, but more specifically, the director's cut. And we're going to ask ourselves the question, is the director's cut really that much better? Today on Hack the Movies.
Tapes, we're talking about tapes.
Hello, Gil.
Hello, Tony.
Gil, why are you not dressed up for the occasion? We're talking about Daredevil.
Well, like Daredevil, I can't see anything. I just grabbed the first thing I could feel in my closet.
You know, so did I, and it just so happens it was the Daredevil 2003 shiny holographic shirt I got.
Yeah, which I noticed it's in great condition. So I think
Yes.
after you saw that movie, clearly you didn't feel compelled. Like, I
Yes,
need to represent Daredevil.
This was a gift from my mom when the movie was coming out. She thought it looked cool, and I'm like, that looks like a cool-ass shirt. That movie looks awesome. And it was, even though I was very tiny, I wore XL shirts because I was weird, which benefited me later in life when I got really fat because then they all still fit. It was actually, that was forward thinking on my part.
I used to wear shirts. They were all like down to my knees because it was all hand-me-downs from my older brothers. But I remember my friend accusing me. He's like, are you wearing those because you think they make you look thin? Because they don't. I was like, wow.
So yeah, she got me this, and then I went and saw the movie with handsome cop Mike, who hasn't been on this channel in a while. I got to bring him back. And we both walked out of that movie going, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel compelled to wear this shirt that much afterwards. But I held on to it all these years. I've worn it in a couple episodes. But yeah, I was, this is a very special episode. I was actually saving this episode, Gil.
Really? For me?
No.
Oh.
I wanted to do this with a lawyer. And the only YouTube lawyer I know is Nick Rekieta. He's had a very busy year. So, I'm going to let that one slide. I was like, you know what? He's probably not going to have any time anytime soon for me. But this worked out because Daredevil is back, born again. I mean, I feel like he's been back. He was in Spider-Man No Way Home. And then he was in She-Hulk, which I didn't watch.
Of course not.
And then, of course, he was in... I screwed up the joke because I genuinely don't know the character. What's the Latino deaf girl show?
Oh, Echo. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I screwed up the joke. So I clearly didn't watch Echo because I saw her in Hawkeye and I went, wow, what a boring character. And then they went, she's getting her own show. And I went, who the hell greenlit this? Why would anyone do this? But he apparently was in that.
He was. And...
Yeah.
Are you done, or is the bit finished? Because there's another one.
Wait, what was the other one that he was in?
I don't know if the appearance has happened yet, but he's showing up in that new animated Spider-Man show.
That's not in the MCU.
It's MCU adjacent, though. It's in the multiverse, and he's voiced by Charlie Cox.
Okay. I don't count that.
All right.
I don't count that. But he's
I
back.
tried.
And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll go back and watch the Daredevil show and all the other Netflix shows. I don't have time for that. Mince Out's doing it anyway. So we're stuck with the Daredevil 2003 movie.
You can sense it before it happens.
I'm so excited.
I can't wait.
The first time Ben Affleck was a superhero.
And both times I feel like you walked away damaged.
I was more upset the second time I saw him as a superhero. So yes, when did you first see Daredevil?
I know I saw it in theaters when it came out, but I remember at the time being really dismissive of it. I wasn't a big Daredevil fan growing up. I was aware of him. I was more of a Spider-Man kid. And I remember seeing the trailers for this movie and thinking it just looks like a Spider-Man knockoff.
Well, you're pretty spot on. Well, actually, yeah, I knew him through the Spider-Man cartoon, but I wasn't like a Daredevil guy. I was aware of him. I saw him in some comics, but my knowledge was mostly the cartoon. But I was excited for this because at that point we hadn't had a Batman in a while. And Spider-Man was awesome. So I'm like, all right, he's kind of like a Batman, Spider-Man-ish character. This will keep me happy until they, eventually make a Batman beginning somewhere down the line. So I was pretty hyped for this. And this was like that era of that new era of superhero films, the pre-MCU era. Where they were all getting bigger budgets. They were all these characters that you didn't think would get movies were getting movies. Blade and X-Men kind of like changed everything.
Yeah.
This got greenlit in 2000. They were trying to make it earlier, but then it just kept getting canceled. So yeah, they greenlit it in 2000 and they increased the budget after Spider-Man was a huge hit.
Yeah, I assume that all of that increased budget went into those moments where Ben Affleck turns into CGI and starts doing parkour all over the city.
Yeah, I got multiple notes about that. Do you think they would have? This came out in 2003, right?
I think that's right, yeah.
When in 2003 did it come out? Was this before Hulk?
Oh, man. I think it was before Hulk.
Okay. I feel like a lot of movies upped their budget. I feel like Hulk and Daredevil might have upped their budget after Spider-Man.
That this can't fail.
Although I think Daredevil was more of a hit than Hulk was. I mean, enough to get an Electra movie made.
Yeah, that's a thing I always remember every once in a while, and I'm like, I can't believe there's no way that actually happened. Then you look it up, and you're like, there's an Electra movie.
Yes. Not many people saw. They were able to trick us the one time, but they weren't able to get us a second time. They got the director of Grumpy Old Men.
Perfect fit.
And the kid-friendly Jack Frost movie to direct it. Which Jack Frost do you like, Gil?
Well, Joey, there are so many Jack Frost movies. I didn't bother to watch them.
Yeah, Joey C did a video on Jack Frost versus Jack Frost, the killer one versus the family one. And Gil was an asshole and just did a completely unrelated Jack Frost.
The real thing is that I'm a yes man. Anybody asks me for a favor, I want to say yes to it. And he's like, Gil, have you seen the Jack Frost movies? And I was like, no, but I'll watch them for you. And he's like, dude, you don't have to do that. Just record 5 minutes about how you haven't seen it and don't worry about it.
He asked me to do it. I was like, Joey, I literally did this on Rental Reviews. We have a whole episode. Everyone already knows my answer. But you're always a go-getter. Like when someone says, hey, will you be my ghost or Christmas present? You will do absolutely no research into what that is, and you'll confuse it with the angel from It's a Wonderful Life. But anyway, yes, Daredevil. A few other things about this. Affleck actually wore those contacts to blind himself.
Oh, yeah, I read something about that.
Yeah.
So he could see a little, right? But he was
a little.
Like
They're like
blind.
milky, but it was like to obscure his vision, which, I mean, what's that famous Olivier quote? Like, have you tried acting?
Oh, yeah. Have you tried acting, my boy? That was like Dustin Hoffman was supposed to be really like out of breath for a scene.
Yeah.
So he kept running laps. And he's like, have you tried acting, my boy?
How hard is it? I'll fucking do it. Hold on.
Let's see.
Ah, I'm blind. It's not that hard, Ben Affleck. Fucking get over yourself.
You showed him.
And the director actually went through a lot of the comics. He seemed to really like the comics. And it seemed like he wanted to do a lot from the comics, which I have a quote from him later about how that was a mistake. But he actually pulled a lot of images like straight from the books. I think there's one called Guardian Devil. I think he used a couple images from that, like him on the cross and everything. And I have some Daredevil comics here. I got Born Again.
Yeah, one of the best ones.
Yes, and I have a volume there, Man Without Fear, which is pretty cool, pretty good book. A lot of really great art in it. Daredevil's a pretty cool character. I can see why people really liked him.
I think, so I became a Daredevil fan later on. When I read Dark Knight Returns, which was like the comic that turned me into a comic book fan in college. And then after that, I needed to get my hands on anything Frank Miller. So
you went to the, what was it? God damn it, I forgot the name of it. I'm forgetting the names left and right of all my funny jokes. What's the controversial book that he did?
Holy War?
Yeah, Holy Terror. You went right to Holy Terror and you were like, perfect. I love it.
He was saying, I was like, I miss the good old days where you could just make propaganda. And that's not me calling it propaganda. That's a direct quote from Frank Miller. But
no, you're right. I mean, 300 is basically propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you got real into Frank Miller.
Oh, yeah, and Born Again is such a great comic. And then after that, I was like, maybe I got to give that Daredevil movie another chance. And everybody's been saying for years that the director's cut is so much better.
Yes.
And so in college, I went back and watched it. And I won't spoil what I thought of it.
Don't. A lot of people do that on this show.
No, I'm not going to.
We'll be like, we're going to figure out which one's the best. And we're like, first up this. And like, oh, that's the best one. I'm like, no, I got to cut around it because you're supposed to save it for the end.
But then you get to the end and inevitably it's like, oh, the first one was best. Who would have thought?
But yeah, let's get into this director's cut. Now, I had watched the director's cut once, years ago. Forgot pretty much everything about it. When I rewatched the theatrical cut, I was just like, this movie's missing a few things. It's missing more character development. It's missing scenes with Foggy doing his job. And I couldn't help but feel like there just wasn't enough Coolio in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
Luckily, the director's cut will address all my issues. The opening credits for the movie are all done in Braille. That's for all the blind people in the theater. They're able to read the credits.
That was the only thing I thought. I was like, this feels cool, but at the same time, it feels wrong.
Yeah,
the only person who can appreciate it is someone that has sight. Like Daredevil could not enjoy this little touch they added at the beginning.
Yeah, like that's the blind person in the theater. Whoever they're with has to be like, "Oh, they're in Braille, by the way," and we'll be like, "Okay, I can't see the movie anyway. Who cares?" That always cracked me up, that opening. I remember opening CGI title sequences. That was like a huge thing.
Oh, what I thought was funny is I watched the theatrical cut first on Disney Plus, and it pops up with the skip intro button.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, yeah, that's right. Movies used to have intros at the beginning.
Yeah. It was a good way to pad the time, set the tone for your movie. You don't need them, but sometimes they help.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man's was really popular, so then everyone had to have one after that.
Yeah, with some kind of CGI, like
X-Men kind of had it, but those are like quick. That's not like a full title sequence. It's just like a few credits and then the title. But yeah, there's a nice tracking shot of a church, and we see flashes of this fight that's happening, and we get our reveal of Daredevil. And now this is like a funny complaint about superheroes, like origin stories, like the movies take forever for him to get in the costume. Not this one. He's there. There he is.
Yeah, and I feel like it was a good way to start the movie, and something I appreciated more after becoming a Daredevil fan and coming back to it, because I feel like a lot of superheroes have that thing people say where Spider-Man, for example, he works best when Peter Parker is downtrodden, struggles to pay his rent. That's always the thing people go to.
Yeah.
And I feel like for Daredevil, his thing is he's beaten down, he's bleeding, and he's got to crawl his way back out. I feel like that's part of what made season 3 on Netflix so good.
Yeah.
So this movie's like, let's just start right there.
Yeah.
He's beaten to a pulp. How's he going to get out of this?
Remember when he survived being in the Dragon Bone cave underneath New York? That only Iron Fist could open the door to.
That's right.
But then he didn't escape the cave, but I guess he fell out of a pipe or something.
There was like a crazy CGI thing where he's like flying out of the explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't make it. I'm like, wait, wasn't there only one door to the cave? And somehow he ended up in the river? That doesn't make any sense.
God, that was so. I remember
that Defenders crossover was a mess.
And when it was announced, it was the coolest news ever.
Yeah.
Like, the MCU is still fairly young, but the one thing you could say that was wrong with it at the time, everything felt pretty similar. It was all kind of action comedy-ish.
Yeah.
And you wished, like, if we could do a darker version of this, get Daredevil, Punisher, and they're like, yeah, we're going to do it. It's all going to culminate in the Defenders.
Yeah.
Then you fast forward a few years, and you're like, man, that sounded really cool at the time.
It sounded cool at the time. It did not pay off. And now whenever you watch an MCU thing, you got to think to yourself, like, oh yeah, there's dragon bones under the city. Is anyone ever going to address that? What's going on there? Because that was the whole thing. All those shows were building up to that bunch of ninjas wanted dragon bones underneath the city.
Going back and updating the MCU timeline on one take to add all the Defenders stuff, I started drawing these connections. Like season 1 of Daredevil, Wilson Fisk really wants this building. And the show feels so grounded. And then 3 years later, you find out he wanted that building because there were dragon bones under it. And I'm like, it really doesn't fit.
I mean, that's comics, so it makes sense. He falls into a church, and he's got his priest friend, who, even in this cut, we're not really given any backstory to. It's kind of implied. You have to, like, pick up here and there that I guess he grew up in an orphanage after his dad died. That was run by the church.
You get like one shot later when he's unconscious or falling asleep where you see a nun. It's like, wake up.
Which is supposed to be his mom.
Yeah.
But you only know that if you've read the comics. If you didn't, you'd be like, what's that nun's deal?
Yeah.
Why are we cutting
this is a side effect of what you were saying earlier, where he wanted to put so much from the comics into the movies. Yeah.
Yes, but this priest, who I think is a character from the books, I think there was a version of him on Netflix. It's been a while since I watched it.
Yeah, there was definitely a priest character.
Yes, yes. But yeah, that was my problem even back then. I went like, who is that guy? How does he know who Matt is? What is their connection? Neither version of the movie, it never like really explains it to you. So yeah, we flash back to his youth where he's getting beat up by a freaking Soprano kid, right? Isn't that one of the kids from
is
the
that?
Sopranos?
Yeah, I only watched the first season of that show, and it was a while. So,
dude, I think I mentioned it here. I was at a friend's house, and he played the first few episodes of The Sopranos. I had seen bits and pieces of the show growing up. I can't do it. Tony Soprano's mom, I can't deal with her. Like, she just reminds me of too many fucking old broads I know in real life. or knew in real life who have thankfully died. And I was just like watching that show. I'm like, I cannot watch her scenes. Like it's literally giving me anxiety. I know eventually she dies in the show, but I'm like, I can't do it. I cannot do it. So yeah, this kid, I think he's in The Sopranos. He's beating the shit out of young Daredevil. We learned that his dad is a former boxer.
That's right.
Who went by the Devil, Jack Murdock or whatever.
The name just stuck.
The name just stuck, yeah. Matt accuses him of working for a crime lord called Fallon. And he's like, no, I don't work for Fallon. I work at the docks all the time. But then he like gives his son like a motivational speech, which is funny because it's like, why are you motivating anyone? Like, what? He's like, don't be like me. You can do anything you want. I couldn't, but you can. Trust me. So yeah, he tells him to like believe in himself. Then we see little Matt Murdock going to surprise his dad with his report card.
Yeah.
Gil, I never got good grades. Did you get good grades growing up?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Is this something people with good grades do? Yeah. They get like real excited and they have to like show their parent.
The number of report cards I've dropped into puddles at like different shocking revelations about my parents. Or you could be like my brother and you Photoshop the A's because at Blockbuster they had a deal where if you get straight A's, you can get a free movie rental.
Well, I couldn't relate to this scene because I was a straight like DF student. So like the whole him being like, that was the most unrealistic thing in the movie to me. Not the superpowers or any of that stuff. It was him being real excited he got straight A's. I'm like, I'll never know that.
You got the opposite of the motivational speech. He's like, you know, Tony, maybe you should come with me down to, you can come work with Fallon with me. I thought you said you didn't work for him.
I lied. So, I lied.
That's when I still thought you had a chance.
But yeah, he like goes to the docks and they say Jack hasn't worked here a month. So he knows his dad lied to him and he throws the report card in the puddle. I think it's different in the theatrical. Isn't it like he sees the dad beating the guy up and then we see the report card?
Yeah, yeah. I actually thought this was a minor improvement in the director's cut. Because in the theatrical cut, he goes, I decided to take a shortcut home from school. So he just happens to run into his dad. And then when he sees his dad intimidating someone, clearly working for the mob, he drops his report card in shock. Yeah. But yeah, in the director's cut, he's looking for his dad. Yeah. Like, he hasn't worked here for months. Then he drops it. And I was like, that's so interesting. When you do these close-up shots, how you can just insert it into a different part of the movie. Yeah.
They should have put that shot throughout the whole film at just awkward times.
Every time something shocking happens.
Electra dies. Just cut the report card in the water. He sees his dad, like you said, beating up the guy, and then he runs, and what do you know it? They just have a bunch of biohazardous chemicals that spray into his eyes.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same dramatic weight as I was saving a blind old man crossing the street. Yeah. But even that's a little on the nose. I was trying to save this blind old man, and then ironically, I myself became blinded. But here it's just, I was so shocked. I ran into a bunch of barrels of toxic waste.
He does save someone from almost walking in the street, Stan Lee, later on.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So I guess that was their way of like referencing it a little bit. But yeah, the origin is a little different because it was like something fell off a truck and hit him in the face while he was saving someone. And then it rolled into the sewer where it made the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's right, yeah.
It's like the fan theory. So now he's blind, but his senses are heightened.
Yes.
Everything's heightened. He's just hearing sounds everywhere. The water dripping is like a drum going off, which the new Wolfman movie did a kind of cool thing with that.
The spider?
Yeah, we talked about that with the spider on the wall. I'm like, that was actually really cool. And now he has radar vision.
Yeah.
Blue, milky radar vision. You're going to see a lot of that in this.
I thought that worked well for his waking up scene. Because we've seen this sort of thing before with like Superman, where everything is so loud and it's overwhelming. Yeah. But I feel like when you have the added element of it's also creating like a visual scape. Yeah. So it looks like there's trucks coming at him. It feels a lot more overwhelming than just a bunch of loud noises. Yeah. So at least for the waking up scene, I thought it worked really well.
Yeah, I think it worked well. Because he does have kind of a radar. Daredevil's like powers are like really goofy. Like he can read any document. He just puts his hand and he feels the slightest difference in the ink and the whatnot. Right. And it's like, okay, relax.
Yeah,
guy.
and I'm like, there's always like little aspects of it where I'm like, well, would that make him like an amazing fighter? And so they say, well, his touch is also heightened. Yeah. So his balance and everything's
heightened. Yeah. Every single thing is heightened. So yeah, his father makes a promise that they're going to be fearless and they're going to better themselves.
That's it. There's a lot of really cheesy lines in this movie, which, to be fair, they do sound like lines out of a comic book.
Yeah.
I think that was one of them where it was like, we made a silent promise to never give up, to be fearless.
Yes. You can have a little fear.
Well,
Fear's
even
okay.
right before he saw his dad, he was like, what I saw then, I'll never forget, because it was the last thing I'd ever see.
It's so melodramatic. I like it. I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
I
You read
do
these
like
books.
it. I think these are the kind of surface level things you can pick at and say the movie's cheesy, it's over the top. They're the sort of things you would definitely forgive if the movie was, I think, better overall. You say those are just like nice comic book touches.
Yeah.
But I do think this whole origin story here is a lot that's happening very quickly. So it essentially becomes like a 15-minute montage of these really melodramatic soap opera-like moments. Like you said, it goes from he's just giving his son this like uplifting speech, cut to he sees his father intimidating someone, drops his report card. You know?
And it hit with the chemicals and all this shit. And it's about to get even more tragic.
That's right.
Oh, well, first, before he gets tragic, there's a little bright spot. He beats up the bullies.
Of course, yeah.
Hits them with this fucking walking stick, which is pretty funny. And then we see Fallon, played by Mark Margolis.
Hector Salamanca.
I was setting you up for that. I knew you were going to say that. He was also in Scarface. Yes. He tells Jack, he's like, hey, I need you to take a fall tonight. We're fixing the match. He's like, I don't do that. He's like, joke's on you. We've been doing it to you the whole time. You didn't win any of those matches. He's like, oh, darn.
Yeah. There's nothing better, though. I love the boxer who's supposed to take the fall, but isn't going to take the fall.
So it's like Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. That's pride.
Yeah. I love when people like make fun of wrestling for being fake. And it's like, yeah, a lot of boxing matches were probably fake. Except for Muhammad Ali versus Superman. That was the realest fight I've ever seen. Actually, I don't even think it's really Muhammad Ali in that comic.
Wait, really?
I think there's like a
clone
twist or something. I think there's like a dumb twist. Andre the Giant versus that grizzly bear. Now that was a real fight.
Course,
that was a real fight. You can't fake that. So yeah, he's told that he has to take the fall, and he doesn't want to do that. So he wins the match, and that upsets Fallon and Kane Hodder. Did you know Kane Hodder was there?
I did not know that.
The henchman. Do you know who Kane Hodder is?
No.
If I take this, it'll drop the card sort of thing. Kane Hodder is Jason in parts 7 through 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he's just sitting because I know I've seen him in person like a bunch of times, and I remember even in the theater being like, "Holy shit, it's Kane Hodder!" Because he is a big stuntman. He's like been a stuntman for years.
All right, I got one later. I'm gonna wow you.
Okay,
there's somebody, and I'm gonna say, did you know that person's in the movie?
Okay,
we'll see.
Okay, is it Ellen Pompeo?
No.
Okay, good. Because I feel like you're looking at me like he doesn't watch Grey's Anatomy. He won't know that. So yeah, Kane Hodder and Fallon are very upset by this. And then the alleyway, Fallon's boys are beating the shit out of Jack. Also, I do like Jack's robe, the red robe with the little horns.
That's cool.
Someone else gets out of the car. We never see who it is. It's the Kingpin. It's just it's like, why are you even trying to we know.
Well, now, I don't know if this is a me problem or if this is something wrong with the movie, but later in the movie, when you finally start to piece together like who really killed his father, I forgot that it was even supposed to be a mystery.
Yeah.
You know, and I realized that's why he keeps putting the flowers on each person he kills.
Yeah.
So we have a way to draw that connection. But as much as I feel like I would normally criticize a movie for doing a bunch of flashbacks, I feel like I could have used repeated flashbacks
to the flower. Yeah.
Yeah, to being like,
you're right.
Who
You
killed my
kind of
father?
forget it's supposed to be a mystery. He never says anything like, does he ever say anything like, and I'm still looking for the killer? He doesn't say anything like that.
No, and I feel like that ends up being like the crux of the movie is the decision of whether or not to get revenge.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I feel like we should have said like he wanted revenge or something earlier. But no, instead he makes a promise there that he's going to help the people in need and not show fear and be a guardian. He's going with the devil motif because of his dad, which I feel like people should be like, hey, is there anyone in Hell's Kitchen who had like a whole devil thing going on? They're like, oh yeah, that blind lawyer, his dad had like a whole devil motif.
And now that you mention it, I heard him mumbling to himself in an alleyway, like, I'm going to do justice. I'm going to find a way. Even if I have to dress up in a devil costume at night with my heightened senses.
Is there anyone who used to dress up like the devil in Hell's Kitchen who might have had a tragic thing with like a kid who wanted revenge? Okay, that's Daredevil. We found him.
This was in the early days of superhero movies. People weren't sick of the origins yet, so not everybody was drawing that connection.
Yeah. So then we flash to him as an adult. And I was hoping the director's cut would explain some things, but it didn't. How does he have any of this shit?
That's a good question. Well, he makes good money as a lawyer, right?
No, he doesn't. I repeatedly say he does not make good money as a lawyer. No, he does not make money. I think he lives in the church, right?
I had that question too, and I was rewinding through the movie trying to figure it out. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure.
I think because he's always entering through a rooftop. We know he doesn't bring anyone there. Someone leaves him a voicemail complaining about it. I think he lives in the church. And now I'm thinking, is the fucking Vatican funding this? How does he afford the big tank with water? Does he sleep in that every night?
Well, so that's a cool detail where he has to sleep in a sensory deprivation chamber every night.
Just so he can relax. I get it,
but it lays on the brooding thing so thick. Yeah. Where on top of everything else, he basically sleeps in a coffin every night. And he looks miserable while doing it.
Yeah. I just couldn't believe how he afforded everything. And it was a really nice apartment. I mean, it just seems like a secret room in the church, I guess. But
that would explain it. All of his rent money goes toward the weapons and the deprivation chamber. Yeah. And then the church covers his actual living, I guess.
I don't know if they're in on it or if it's just that priest who's doing that. I don't know.
What the devil is going on up there?
We get to see Foggy Nelson, played by Jon Favreau.
That's right. I can't believe they didn't make a joke about that in Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah, I was expecting
to have two Jon Favreaus.
They had different Deadpool jokes in that one, so I guess they didn't need to do that.
Nobody remembers that movie. Electra, sure, people know Jennifer Garner, but
Did you notice she was wearing Ben Affleck's belt in that movie?
I didn't notice until it was pointed out a lot.
And it was pointed out, and I went, I don't care.
Yeah. The same reaction they had in the movie to, Daredevil died. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's okay.
It's their real life divorce. So Matt and Foggy are trying to convict we're on YouTube, a pinballer. We'll call him a pinballer. That's an accused joke. And Matt is using his powers to tell if he's lying or not. This fucking guy is lying. Also, his name's Quesada. They're using a lot. There's a lot of names in this from famous Daredevil authors and artists. I know Frank Miller is in this as a guy with a pen in his head. I forget which scene because I saw that he was in it. And I'm like, did I miss the scene he was in? I had to look up the screenshot. So they're constantly referencing the people who worked on the books.
I think to a point where it's a little distracting if you know them, because then every 5 minutes it's like Quesada. There's another name I recognize.
Jack Kirby. Yeah. It's legendary Jack Kirby.
The perp is Jack Kirby.
He gets off. He's able to get out of it. They lose their case. And also just Dutch angles everywhere in this scene.
Yeah.
This and Thor and a bunch. There was that whole thing where it's a comic book movie. It has to have Dutch angles. I'm like, that doesn't have to. I mean, it was fun in the old Batman. You don't need it for every single movie.
Yeah, I feel like that is a small example of one of the core issues of the movie, which is that it's trying to go for these really dramatic moments, but there's no build up to them. Yeah. So here, typically a Dutch angle is to convey some sense of anxiety and tension. Yeah. But when you go right into the Dutch angles, you don't start with a regular angle and build up to it, then you get into that style over substance thing. Yeah. Where the movie's screaming at you, feel anxious about this.
It's reminding me of Battlefield Earth and Thor. Thor 2011 would have an establishing shot that was a Dutch angle for no reason. Why are you doing this? In the old Batman show, you know why they use Dutch angles for the bad guys?
No, why?
Because the crooks were crooked.
That's good.
So be a crooked angle. Get it?
Hold on. Yeah, I get it.
Okay, good. Then Quesada is just at a bar, just laughing to himself. And the girl points out, because he abused a girl at a bar. And she's like, you should not be here right now. He's like, I'm innocent. It's like, oh, dude, come on. Come on, man. Oh, they also mentioned like, hey, how was he able to get a lawyer for that to like pay for all this? And they start to hint that the Kingpin is involved, which I don't think the theatrical version does. I don't think they hint his involvement.
Yeah, I can't
this
remember.
Early.
Yeah, I think both movies suffer from the issue of not really building up the Kingpin.
Yeah, he just kind of shows up.
Yeah, it's just like there's a guy who runs the mob, and it's like that's theoretically true, like in the background of every movie.
Yeah,
it's like, why do I care so much about stopping Kingpin?
Yeah. So yeah, Matt puts on his leather daddy outfit.
Time to get to work.
Look, I did the leather suit for Wolverine. I'm not doing a leather suit for Daredevil. I'm sorry, Gil. As much as you wanted to see me in a skin tight leather suit.
I know. I was pretty disappointed when I showed up today.
I decided to go with the Ben Affleck Daredevil shirt instead.
When I got out of the car, I saw you in the window not wearing the leather suit, so I quickly took mine off and like stuffed it back in the trunk.
I still have it. I have a Daredevil yellow suit I used for a skit years ago. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah, I did a whole skit where it's how Daredevil got his yellow suit, and it's like a guy just screwed him over and sold him the wrong color, but since he was blind, he didn't know. That's still somewhere. I'm also not putting that one on. So yeah, he puts on his leather daddy suit, which is so dated. I mean, as much as actually, I feel like we're feeling like that now with the MCU with their like overly designed armor suits. Mm-hmm. Like, what is it? Oh, Brave New World.
Oh, man, yeah.
Israeli Black Widow.
Yeah.
Just randomly throughout the film, later in the film, she has like an MCU design thing, but then she has like a jacket over it. I'm like, why'd you even bother? Like they can't all have these stupid jackets.
Yeah. It also just the whole like dressing up in your suit and then testing out each weapon and like basically posing for the camera.
I feel like they don't do that anymore. That used to be a thing.
It used to be a thing.
Like in the Batman movies.
Yeah, I feel like this was the tail end of that being a thing. And it really stands out.
Yeah.
Though I will say, when it cuts to the lenses on his mask and the city is like reflected in it.
That's cool.
That looks really cool.
But I know when I want to jump around the city, I want a really tight suit that doesn't have any kind of give or anything in it that makes a lot of noise. That's what I want.
It's like, what is that squeaking noise?
If someone was about to hit me with a baseball bat, I want to be able to not lift up my hands because I can't bend anything and just get hit in the head repeatedly. We really went all in on that leather stuff early on. I blame Blade with the big leather jacket. He kind of started it. At least we weren't doing rubber. We got rid of Batman. Batman and Robin was like the end of the black rubber. They're like, okay, we're done with the rubber stuff.
Yeah, now I miss it though, because now it's all nanotech.
Yeah,
masks just to magically appear whenever you need them.
Yeah, or it's like overly armored, like Robert Pattinson's bat suit.
Yeah.
So yeah, he suits up and then he runs, and I have here early 2000s rubbery CGI. This one was, look, they all had them. The first X-Men has it, like the Statue of Liberty scene, very rubbery. The first Spider-Man movie is probably the worst one with this. It got a little bit better in the sequels. Actually, no, Spider-Man 3, it got better in Spider-Man 2, and then it got worse in Spider-Man 3.
It's true of a lot of things in those movies.
But when it comes to really bad rubbery CGI, my like 3 go-tos are some of the fight scenes in Blade 2, Catwoman, and this. And this might be the worst. Catwoman might technically be worse. I don't know. I haven't rewatched Catwoman in a while. But yeah, this one's pretty bad. And also, so Daredevil is agile. Okay? But he's not Spider-Man. He can do some Spider-Man things. He does have like the little
he's like a short distance Spider-Man. He doesn't have the web, but the cane does have the
cane can do the things, but there's too many shots of him jumping unrealistic lengths. I'm like, no, it heightened his senses. I don't think it gave him super strength. Am I wrong? Did I forget something?
No, and he will leap off of a skyscraper.
Yes.
And I'm like, what's his plan here? And it just so happens there's like a clothesline he can grab onto. Yeah. And I'm like, so when you're looking at Electra and she puts an umbrella over her head, she basically disappears. Yeah. But that little clothesline, like somehow your radar
knew it was there.
Yeah, he's like, he set it up earlier. I hope nobody moved that or I'm dead.
They couldn't help themselves, because they wanted it to resemble Spider-Man, because those did well. But like, if you know the character, you're like, I know he's not supposed to jump like that. He can. He's obviously doing it on the cover of that book. But he usually has like the rope and everything helping him. He's not doing literal Spider-Man jumps ever. He's just he's too agile.
Yeah. Which you need something in between, because I feel like Netflix on their budget, they really couldn't do much of that at all.
Yes.
This maybe goes a little bit too far. We need something in the middle. Because he is supposed to be, parkouring all over the city.
Yeah.
He should be able to do that.
Yeah. Oh man, if this came out like a few years later, he would have been legit parkouring. Like after Casino Royale, it would have been parkour all over the place. Like in that Punisher movie Warzone, where they have the parkour guys.
Oh yeah, and then he just blows them up.
Apparently, from what I remember, the directors they got a note that there were too many parkour people in movies, but they already started shooting it, so they came up with that idea to just blow up the parkour guy. So yeah, it's getting wild at that bar. Motorcycle guys are coming in and doing burnouts, and the girls are getting on their tables and sort of showing their boobs, but not really.
And they were like, no burnouts. And like, but it's okay to even have the motorcycles in the bar.
Well, no,
already.
she says behind the fence. Yeah. I don't know what kind of bar this is. I've never been in a bar like this where you can just bring motorcycles in. Seems like a safety hazard.
I'll take you out after this.
Okay.
You're missing out.
I only go to the one bar that's full of cigarette smoke. So Daredevil attacks the bar. He's hiding up in the rafters, but someone's able to spot him. Probably because he's bright red. I don't know. Or maybe because someone's like, hey, does anyone smell like leather? What the hell's going on here?
Well,
or they heard him.
Well, he was ready with his little one-liner where they were like, what do you want? Justice.
Yeah.
So he was sitting there. He wanted to get that line out so bad. Nobody saw him. He's like,
What if they didn't set him up for the joke?
I know, that's the thing. Like with the Batman, he does something real similar. Where, who are you? I'm vengeance. But it's like there's a very good chance they're gonna say, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
But what are you doing here? There's like a 50-50 shot. So I don't know. Maybe he had another line ready in case they went with the classic. Who are you?
No, just made
Your
fun
worst
of him.
nightmare.
Would have just made fun of him.
Yeah.
You look lame as fuck. Oh.
Just, ask me who I am. I mean, ask me what I'm doing here.
Or I'll be like, oh, no, dude, it's not this bar. This is the biker bar. I know what bar you want. The Leather Daddy bar is down the street. It gets confusing because we both kind of wear the same thing. That's what I would have done. You have to look real embarrassed. No, I'm here to fight crime. Like, yeah, we all heard that one before. This fight scene's actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
I think it might be extended more in this cut than it is in the theatrical cut. But yeah, he's kicking all kinds of ass, and it looks pretty good, except for that part where he surfs a guy down a railing. I don't know what the hell that was about. And then it gets bad again when he turns into CGI and jumps on the ceiling fan. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, the worst rubbery CGI offender, Matrix Reloaded.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
And this is the same year.
When he jumps up and like spins around over all the Agent Smiths, like couldn't you add a little bit of texture to his trench coat?
No, they couldn't.
No.
They shouldn't. And the funny thing is, when I rewatched that a few years ago, I'm like, wow, this fight starts off so good.
Yeah.
And then it turns into a cartoon and just takes you out of it.
Yeah, they just ran out of budget at that end of it.
That was like a problem. It's a little bit better these days, but there was like a problem back in this era where like the humans and the CGI cutting back and forth with them was just not very smooth. No. It was very obvious. Even with like all the darkness and stuff with this, and he has less of a bright suit where you can cover it up, it still looks bad.
Yeah, and even when when it's obscured enough by darkness that you're not really seeing the CGI, the movement already.
Yeah, the movement is just
when he goes from moving like a human to all of a sudden it's so clearly CGI.
Again, you let it kind of slide with Spider-Man.
Yeah,
it's hard to do it with this one. He lets him know that it's time to give the devil his due. He's a devil.
I could have used more of those actually, more of the puns.
What are some other devil puns?
It's about to get red. I don't know.
That's awful. It'll be a cold day in hell when you get away from me. So yeah, this I have a problem with. I don't think this is a thing from the comics, but too much sound hurts Daredevil.
Yeah, and I feel like, okay, you brought the guy into the subway, and then you're like, what is this loud noise?
But I feel like more sound, even if it's like a shrieking sound, would actually just help him map out everything better. Why is it only certain sounds will do it?
And then what is the reaction of the people fighting him? They're like, wait a minute, sound is his weakness.
Yeah.
And it's like, but wait, why does he even have like a weakness? Like,
it's weird that his weakness is also his strength, but it's not consistent. Like, He should say, there should have been a line where like, certain sounds above this decibel will interfere with me.
He's like a symbiote. I mean,
Yeah.
I can buy it because he has such sensitive ears and he's learned how to tune in to specific noises and block everything else out.
Yeah.
So if it's loud and unexpected, the thing that bothered me.
A subway in the subway
that's a
station
bug
is
that-
unexpected.
He should have like readied himself.
He should have
for
heard
that.
it coming a mile away and like focused. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's stupid. It was just they had to figure out some kind of weakness with him. But I feel like that one was dumb because it's literally a strength.
Well, and I feel like he has enough weaknesses. I mean, he's human. Like if you hit him, it'll hurt. That's his weakness.
He's fast and agile, but I mean, he'll run out of breath and so he will get tired.
Yeah.
And you know that leather suit doesn't breathe well, so he's gonna get tired a lot faster. It's just you would be able to smell him coming. It just really bothers me. He throws Casado onto the train tracks and then lets him die.
Yeah, this is not something I remembered from the movie.
Oh yeah, it's in both versions.
Yeah, no, it's in both, but I mean, I hadn't watched the movie in about 15 years, but I forgot that he is brutally murdering people, or at least
Just
one guy.
this guy.
Yeah.
I guess it's like the Batman thing. He didn't actually kill him. He just didn't save him.
Well, this is a little bit harder to make the argument here.
Yeah, this one is a little. Like, in Batman Begins with Ra's al Ghul, it's like there wasn't a lot of time to save him, and also he had saved him earlier, and it didn't work out. So it was like, all right, you had one chance,
Right. And
but
it's
this
not
one,
like-
this seems a little too malicious for Daredevil.
That's the C train!
Yeah,
Because he's Catholic and everything. He's supposed to not kill. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a big thing.
Well, it's funny on that point because in the theatrical cut, he goes and makes confession. In the director's cut, he doesn't.
Yeah.
And the priest is like trying to get him to come to church. So it seems like between the versions, they weren't sure how much faith they wanted him to have.
Yeah.
And it feels like, what is the personal arc for Matt Murdock in this movie? There are hints at essentially the same arc that Pattinson goes through in The Batman, which is like, I'm too scary. I need to be less scary.
Am I the bad guy? Am I just a different...
I'm not the bad guy. I'm not.
Yeah. He literally has to ask that question.
That's so bad. But so here he brutally murders someone, literally cuts him in half, by subway. And I feel like the movie comes back to this at the end of, am I a killer or not? But it barely contends with that question. It doesn't really, there's like 2 scenes of dealing with that question. So him brutally murdering someone here, I think would have worked if the movie dealt with it throughout. And there actually was like a developed story around it.
Yeah.
But just coming back to it once or twice.
And it's awkward when like he decides he's not going to be a killer and he spares like the worst person.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's actually kind of the one guy you probably could have killed,
Right,
and been a little like not guilty about.
And it's hard to draw a line from what he went through in the movie to what changed his mind exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, right off the bat, it's a little inconsistent what they're trying to do with him here. And again, the Daredevil I know isn't really a killer, so that was a little confusing to me.
And he leaves his calling card.
Oh God, yeah. So, yeah, Ben Urich shows up, who is a Spider-Man character, but it was like Fox got that character, who's a Spider-Man dude, because they wanted him for this movie, and then I think that's one of the reasons he wasn't used in any of the Spider-Man movies, because that deal didn't work out. So when they did the Netflix version, they just killed Ben in the first season.
Yeah.
Because they were like, we'll never get the Daily Bugle. And then like a year later, they got the Daily Bugle. I'm like, oh, shit. We probably should have saved that character. He's actually really important, especially in these 2 books. Now we don't have that character anymore.
Nope.
But here he's played by Joey Pants.
Yes.
Fucking love Joey Pants. He has like a running thing with the detective in this version, which is very reduced in the theatrical cut. Joey Pants is a lot better in this. He actually has a reason to be around Matt Murdock and investigate him,
Right.
but it's all tied to the subplot that was cut out. So in the theatrical version, it's like, how does he know Matt is? Because it seems like he's on to Matt that he's Daredevil, but that's actually not the case. But yeah, he is investigating a Daredevil. He believes it, and I like when he goes like, yeah, there's no Daredevil, and he throws the thing. And so how many, like, where was he carrying the lighter fluid to do that? And does he do it all over?
Yeah, and he's only done the DD fire thing once in the movie.
Yeah.
And he's only killed a guy once in the movie.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's been doing this for a while. We just happened to catch the last time he does this.
Yeah. But I'm just like thinking, like, does every time he like fight crime, he leaves a DD somewhere?
Which really feels out of character for him.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's so dark and brooding. He gets
You know what it
every night
is?
pulling teeth out.
The Crow did it, and then a bunch of movies wanted to do it because the Crow did it.
Yeah, Batman did it. Like where he had in Dark Knight Rises, he had his.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Dark Knight
symbol.
Rises.
Yeah.
Gil, did you know that I was in the Dark Knight Rises? I was waiting for someone to bring it up.
Yeah, I had it here. I was like, find an organic way to bring up Dark Knight Rises.
Yes, I think that was like the last time I remember them doing that. But I remember the year after this, they did it in Punisher.
He did it in Punisher? How did he do it?
When they
Fire?
exploded the cars in the parking lot, but he organized the cars to be in the logo of his skull.
Which that is a lot of work compared to like a little bit
That
of
is a lot of work. I actually reviewed that on Cinema Trip Reviews. And I think at the time of this recording, he gave me the audio and I uploaded it to my podcast feed.
Nice.
So go back and listen to we did it last year or the year before for the 20th anniversary of that movie. Yeah, go back and check that out, the Punisher review. But yeah, he did like the flaming skulls. But I feel like the Crow was the first one that did that. And then everyone wanted to do it. But I like that the D's aren't reversed in his glasses, even though they should be.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's cool. Just like the city reflecting his lenses. This movie needed more stuff reflecting in glasses.
That's what it really needed. It's really what it was missing. So Daredevil goes home and his fucking combination is too complicated. It's like, okay. Him opening his door doesn't need to be cool, but he has 3 combinations that he spins and then he stops them all at the perfect time. And it's like, come on. Like, he just opened up a door. We don't need to make door openings cool for superheroes. He gets dumped via voicemail.
By Colin Farrell's sister, Claudine Farrell.
Really? That's who it was.
This was so cheesy. Yeah, he's like, so this is what I was talking about earlier. It is the most brooding scene you've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's like taking painkillers. Oh, his teeth are falling out.
His teeth fell out. Like, that hurts. And he's fine the rest of the
He
movie.
likes
I'm like,
the pain.
I'd be like, no, you'd be like, oh my God, I gotta go to a fucking dentist.
And then over all of that, you have Heather calling him on the phone and leaving this voicemail. What's wrong with you, Matt? Where do you go at 3 a.m? I thought you'd open up, but you never open up.
He's a dick.
Yeah.
He like takes off his shirt. We see all the scars on his back, which reminds me of the Alex Ross painting of Bruce Wayne taking his shirt off and having all these scars on his back, which is funny because he ends up being Batman. Yes, and I have it here. Did he just casually spit out a tooth? Like, that hurt. Like, I had my wisdom teeth taken out years ago, and that was a fucking nightmare. And he's just like spitting this thing out with no painkillers. Like, all right, time to go to bed. I'm like, no, you got to go to emergency.
You got to
room.
man you up a little bit, Tony. Let's take turns and pull some teeth out later.
Because then it's just like the top of the tooth. I'm like, oh, the rest is still in there. It's gonna get infected, man. You got to.
Well, we needed the rest of the movie to see him like.
Yeah,
he's like playing with it. He's like, it's really.
And he's just pouring Epsom salt into his tank. So yeah, he gets in the tank and he hears someone being murdered, but like he just can't make it in time.
Yeah. This is that idea of like Superman's hearing is so good he can hear all the crime happening all the time, but he knows he can't intervene in every case, so it tortures him.
Yes. Well, he should get a tank full of Epsom salt to cure that. But yeah, I like how they did that little visual thing where like suddenly she's in the room with him. Like that, they don't do the blue radar thing too much for this. I kind of like that. I would have liked to see more scenes like that.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. It takes that idea of I can't help these people that I hear, and it makes it a lot more real because you see her face and you see the person who's about to die. I thought that was really cool until I remembered, oh, that's what leads into the whole Coolio subplot.
Yeah, then this is the confusing flashback to the nun watching over him.
Yeah.
Who, as we who have read the comics, know that that's his mom. But it feels out of place. I think she's later in the movie. There's like a nun that's staring at him at one point.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember that.
But he never interacts with her. I'm like, save this for another movie. You don't have to put that in this movie. Okay, so then him and Foggy are arguing over the existence of alligators in the sewer.
That's right.
Foggy's upset that he's being paid in fish. But I like when he does the mustard thing where he asks for honey and he puts mustard in his drink. And I love when Matt says that he joined a fight club.
Yeah.
He's like, why you always disappear? And then you come back and you're all beaten up. He's like, I'm in a fight club. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I like Foggy being like, I didn't see the movie. That'd probably be funny if I saw the movie. And I don't think a lot of this was in the theatrical. Some of it was, but I think a lot of it was cut out. So I actually like their friendship in this version.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly the same thing. I feel like Jon Favreau is great as Foggy. The interplay between them is great. And when I watched the theatrical version, I just thought I could use more of this.
Yeah.
Because as things stood, every conversation between them, you never really see any of the like shared history. You don't see like inside jokes, the kind of things that make the friendship feel real.
Yeah.
Every conversation was either who's this Daredevil guy running around, or it was like about the case they were working on. But the director's cut, even just adding a minute or two of them just like joking around like friends.
They feel like real friends. Yeah. And then Electra. Oh yeah, hold on. There's a joke that he got him a seeing eye dog, and the seeing eye dog abandoned Matt, like ran away. But Electra walks in.
Yeah, and he can smell her.
Yeah, Matt smells her. I do like this. What's she look like? And Jon Favreau's like terrible, awful, and he's in love. And then here's all the reminders that he's blind, even though we figured it out at this point. What are you, blind? He goes, blind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, he's working an angle.
I
he's
know.
trying to get the sympathy from her, and you get the feeling Foggy's seen him do this 1,000 times before.
I like when she's making fun of Foggy, and he goes, I never seen him before.
Yeah.
But then this part's creepy because then he leaves the cafe and he's going around New York sniffing her out.
It made me uncomfortable when he like forcibly grabs her arm a couple of times.
Oh
Like, leave
yeah,
me
he's about
alone.
to do that. You know what else was really funny? When she goes, look. And I went, I have in my notes, lady, he can't. He can't look. She says, like, look. I'm like, he's blind at this point. Say, listen. Although, in fairness, he is doing a lot of stuff that a blind guy can't do.
Yeah.
So I would be like, are you really blind? That's the funny thing with Daredevil. He has to act blinder than he is.
Yeah.
He doesn't need the cane or anything. Like,
On the Netflix show, he gets called out for it. They're like, so you're not really blind. He's like, well, I am, but I have like a radar sense. So you're not really blind then.
so yeah, you're right. He goes to grab her, and then we get the famous playground fight gymnastics scene. This is in both versions of the movie.
Which, so what is like the general consensus on this scene?
It sucks.
Yeah. Do you think it would have been forgivable in a better movie? People would be like, oh, remember that like fun playground fighting scene?
No.
Like that's their love language. Is fighting on on seesaws.
Gil,
you're off the podcast.
Gil, I never had a man use the term love language. Gil, you know what the worst part of being single right now is? It's fucking love languages. Because they're all just interchangeable. Like, my love language is, like, I feel like that's everyone's.
Yeah,
Like,
and why is their love language always like, I like gifts?
what the fuck is that? Who doesn't like gifts?
Expensive gifts.
And people are like, I don't like gifts that much. I'm like, yeah, but you wouldn't turn one down. Like, what the fuck is this? Oh my God. Some girl sent me a chart on love languages. And I just stopped talking to her. I'm like, no, I'm done. She also stood me up twice. I'm like, you can't stand me up twice and then make me go through a love language quiz
you
and
tried
chart.
to paint it as like, I'm so manly. She
No.
sent me a love language chart and I dropped her.
No,
Also,
if I had
she
got-
stopped
if-
responding to my text about 6 months ago, but I'm the one who ended it.
No, she stood me up twice and then sent me the love language chart. I'm like, what the fuck, lady?
You're like, meet me at the playground. I want to show you something.
Let's go to the player. I'll show you my love language. No, this scene's terrible. As much as we're shitting on the bad CGI, this is like really bad wire work, like really obvious bad wire work. Charlie's Angels had better wire work than this.
Well, we find out here what their love language is repeating phrases at each other.
Yes.
Like, how am I going to find you? I'll find you. And then like three more times in the movie. Well, this time I found you.
Yeah.
I'll find you, Matt. Stay with me. Stay with me.
Stupid. The only thing I could say about this playground scene is that it was overshadowed by the playground basketball scene in Catwoman a year later.
All right. A movie I haven't seen.
You haven't
Shockingly.
seen Catwoman? I got the 2-disc DVD. Let's go watch it.
All right, let's do it. Yeah.
Hey guys, we're back. Gil loves Catwoman.
Let's just knock out all of the like 2000 superhero movies in one shot.
The scene is stupid, and then a car comes for her. It's her bodyguards. She avoided her bodyguards that her dad sent after her. But yeah, then you're right. She's like, I'll find you, and it's like they're all in love. Also, she's wearing contacts, right? Her eyes are like way too green.
Nobody has eyes that green. I don't know. I didn't notice that.
Her eyes were like freaking me out. I'm like, those have to be contacts. Color contacts are like weird because they're like they're not where they actually should be, and they stand out more, and it makes me uncomfortable. Then we meet the Kingpin, played by Michael Clark Duncan. Woke. No one cared back then.
No, actually, he's great casting.
Yes.
I feel like they did almost nothing with the character.
Yeah.
But when he's on screen, he's an intimidating
This
presence.
is one, I mean, I'm sure people had a problem with it. Most general audiences probably didn't know who the Kingpin was, so they didn't care. But also, Michael Clark Duncan was big at this point. This is like post Green Mile.
Yeah, and he gained. Oh, you didn't mean like, you meant like big in the culture. But
Yes, yes. And also, he is a very big man as well.
Yeah, I think he did gain like 30 pounds for the role. But he said that if I come back for a sequel, he had lost a bunch of weight. He's like, I'm not going to put the weight back on. We're just going to say that I've been working out in prison.
No, I remember seeing like the previews and stuff, even as like a kid, and I knew what Kingpin was supposed to look like. I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it works.
Because he was cool. It didn't, I know I'm going to start sounding like Geeks and Gamers. It didn't feel forced. That's the problem today. Like, it feels like it's mandated now. It's like, you have to do this with at least one character in each thing. Whereas back then it was like, we really like Michael Clark Duncan. We're changing the character to be more like him.
Yeah.
And it was like, fine. They did the same thing with Nick Fury. Sam Jackson is Nick Fury. It was like, fine.
Yeah.
But now it feels mandated. It's just, that's why people get annoyed. But then people care about it too much. And I'm like, no, my day's not going to be ruined by Black Snow White. I'm going to keep living my life.
But you come in, you're trying to thread that fine needle. I'm going to care a little bit, but I'm not going to care too much. Just tell me what you want me to think.
You should really care about it. You should care about it and be complaining about it all the time. But no, he's great in this. I wish he would have gotten like a better movie. But yeah, he was awesome, and I love his music that shows up, like the rap music that's playing. I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a cool Kingpin.
Yeah, they do it for him and for Bullseye. Like anytime they cut to them,
Yeah.
like music
The
starts.
rap music,
playing.
like I'm a rap guy, yeah. And then the Bullseye, it's like I'm Irish, oh yeah.
It reminded me. Did you watch the Simon Pegg show Spaced?
Yeah, Gil. What the fuck? Yes, I've seen it many times.
Yeah, I knew you did. I was just
think I
trying
have
to
a
set
box.
it up
Is
for
it
the
over
audience.
No, it might be in the. Actually, do I have it? I think I might have it up there. I own it.
Right,
Yes,
so
I've seen it many times.
After this, Catwoman, Spaced. But the character where anytime there's a repeated sound, like a phone's ringing, he just starts dancing to it.
Oh
Gets
yeah,
lost in his own world.
wheels or
Yeah.
tires.
I think, yeah. I think
Tires,
so.
who we talked about in the Shaun of the Dead episode because there's a zombie version of his character in that movie.
Look at that. It all ties together.
All ties together.
But that's who Bullseye reminded me of.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it cuts to him like going through airport security and he kind of like is dancing to himself.
We're not up to that scene, but that scene was
Like
hilarious.
the whole world is like his music video. He's always just walking around like he owns everything.
Daredevil should have got like a song about how he can't see.
Yeah.
Should have been Lionel Richie's "Hello, Is It Me You're Looking For?" Because that music video was the blind girl making the bust of him. Remember that?
No.
Oh, you never see that?
I was
music
just
video?
gonna do like the laugh and like not a long thing, but
Hello, is it me? You gotta watch that music video. The bust she makes looks nothing like. Anyway, yes, Kingpin. He gets informed by Wesley, played by Leland Orser, who was the guy in Alien Resurrection who kept going, "What's inside me? What's inside me?
That's that guy?
What's inside?" Although he's wearing a very obvious wig in this. He's in a ton of film. He's another one of those "it's that guy" actors.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them in this.
oh, I missed the thing I was gonna wow you with.
Oh.
It wasn't Colin Farrell's sister. That yes, it was on the phone,
yeah.
but also in the bar scene.
Okay.
The guy who's like, "Who's that?" and he sees Daredevil up
Yeah.
there. That's The Rock's cousin. Looks
Wait.
kind of like him.
Which one?
I don't know.
Do you know how many?
I just saw it on the Amazon X-ray while I was watching. I was like, I'm gonna find some good
Gil,
stuff in here.
do you know how many cousins The Rock has?
What did you know? One of them's in Daredevil.
I didn't, but he has a lot of cousins. So if I see a Samoan guy in any form of entertainment, I assume
Man.
they're related to The Rock.
This is not going how I pictured it in my head. I was like, I know you're a wrestling fan. I'm like, he's gonna love this.
Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Rikishi, Umaga, they're all related to The Rock. Every Samoan wrestler is related to The Rock, ironically, except for Samoa Joe. He's the one who's not related to The Rock. So you're like, yeah, The Rock has a cousin. I'm like, yeah, he has a trillion of them.
Hold on. It was more than The Rock has a cousin. He's in Daredevil. All right, go on.
Wow.
You know Kevin Smith appears in this movie? I don't know if you caught it. It's a very subtle cameo.
You know what? I think I might have missed it. When it gets up to it, let me know when he shows up. Tony, that actor who has a million cousins, had a cousin who happened to be in a movie.
You know, Ben Affleck, he actually went on to play Batman. So
What?
He's been 2 superheroes.
This is an added scene for the director's cut. So he hears that there's a rat. And the theatrical cut, it cuts right to Electra's dad. Mm-hmm. But in this version, he kills his bodyguards. He's like, oh, there's a rat. It's probably these 2 guys. And he just kills his bodyguards randomly. And Electra's dad sees it. I like when Kingpin turns around and Electra's dad's like, oh.
Yeah.
Just like walks away.
Yeah, well, these like Kingpin and Bullseye are both so intimidating and scary because you never know when they're just going to randomly kill someone.
Yeah.
The only problem is they're never really pointed in a direction that worries us.
Yeah.
There's never like, and I'm not saying this needs to be like every other superhero movie where Kingpin has some plan that's going to put the whole city at risk.
Yeah.
But something needs to be at risk.
Yeah, no one Daredevil cares about is being targeted until way late in the movie.
Yeah.
Like Foggy's not targeted, Karen's not targeted, who's barely a character. Yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah, you're right. They're like real threatening, but Kingpin's killing mostly bad guys. Even Electra's dad, it's like, well, he was a shady dude.
This all kind of feels like, Daredevil, if you just mind your own business, just walk away.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of mobsters killing each other. And the guy talked. Why is he talking? He works for Kingpin.
Honestly, let Kingpin take over everything and then take him down. Then it all crumbles. Electra's dad is like, I need out of the business. I need out. They're talking about the Kingpin. Buy me out. And he does the how's your daughter. So then we get the new subplot for this version.
Yeah.
Where Matt and Foggy have to defend Coolio. He's been accused of murder. A woman was shot, the woman he heard being attacked earlier. And Coolio was there on the scene, high as a kite. So they naturally assume that he's the one who did it.
And they say he was holding the murder weapon, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's innocent. They meet with him. He does his heart monitor trick, so he's innocent. Then we see the Kingpin says he wants to frame Nachios, which in the theatrical cut they do right after that previous scene, which I feel like they still should have done it here. I don't know why they cut to the Coolio part in the middle of this. But yeah, he wants to frame Nachios and make him look like the Kingpin, so everyone will just think it was him. That's where he goes, Colin Bullseye, and then that's when we see Colin Farrell showing off at a bar. Shit, man, please don't make me laugh. With his dumb jacket that always makes a rattlesnake sound. Every time he puts that jacket on, he goes. But yeah, he's showing off. I think he's in England because they make fun of him for being Irish.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, one thing I noticed rewatching the movie now that I don't think I picked up on as a kid, he kills 2 people for almost no reason. Like the guy makes fun of him, and then the old lady on the plane that won't stop talking.
Yeah.
That old lady dying haunted me for years because I would always think about it, and I'm like, she's just like a nice old lady. And now,
she's using some outdated terms.
Yeah, watching it now,
that's not kill worthy, but
right. Well, they made sure that the 2 people he kills both act a little bit racist before he kills them, and I'm like, you know what? 25 years after I saw it, I feel much better about it now.
Yeah. Well, her dying made me upset because I'm like, that's a long flight. And when you die, you evacuate your bowels. Like, what the fuck? That's going to be a hell of a plane flight. What the hell are they going to do?
And now it's weekend at Bernie's for the rest of the flight.
So, yeah, he has the scar on his head, which was made up for this movie, but they worked it into the comics.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, comic books were doing a thing for a bit where, like, if a movie was coming out, they would try to work elements from the movie into the book. I mean, we talked about it, but the Spider-Man animated series and the Blade movie forever changed Blade. They, like, made Blade like how he is in those 2 versions in the comics. He's not as British anymore. He doesn't wear his red jacket and green glasses. So I think I don't know if it's been retconned since, but I think Daredevil might have carved the Bullseye logo into his head.
Okay.
Whereas
I know that But I know it's out with Spider-Man. They did the same thing.
They
with
did the thing where
web shooters.
he turned into a spider and then gave birth to himself and was able to shoot organic webs.
Yeah, maybe that's how they did it for Bullseye too.
Yeah, and Bullseye turned into a bullseye and shot himself out. No, I also think Spider-Man was able to communicate with spiders afterwards.
Okay, that one I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
How about this one? The when they did the Spider-Verse in the comics, one of the Spider-Men was called like Thousands of Spiders Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Where he's literally just a pile of spiders that are like
So he's like
hive mind.
He's like the villain Swarm. It's like a bunch of bees that look like the Green Goblin.
That's right,
no
just
reason.
all shoved into a spider suit.
So stupid. That's his look. He doesn't wear the costume in this. That was their way around
Though
it.
at one point,
Well, we'll get to
We'll
that
get to
because
that.
I have a
Okay,
problem.
okay.
And there's two versions of that scene. But yeah, I have a problem with that. Before he gets on the plane, you're right. He goes through the TSA or whatever. And he's just on the escalator with his hands up. And you're right. He's like dancing, showing off all his metal. I'm like, what is he doing this for?
yeah, and it's like
But at-
nobody's looking at him, but he still does it.
But at the same time, I'm loving it. And I'm like, Colin Farrell's so good. I'm so glad he's the Penguin now.
Yeah.
He's so good at being just the most irredeemable bad guy ever. He's awesome. So then Matt and Foggy investigate the murder scene. And they want to know why a prostitute's murder is being covered up. Because he's like, she was killed here, and they moved her outside, and they cleaned up the floor and everything. And yeah, this is, I think, where he finally pieces together that it was the murder he couldn't stop. And then he uses his daredevilness, where he's feeling the table, and it's like, it says MOM 6 to 9.
Yeah.
And I do like Foggy going like, good, her mother did it. Let's
Yeah.
get out of here because they broke into the apartment. Then we get Bullseye on the plane killing that old lady. Then we get Coolio being confused by Matt's defense of him because Matt's staring at a wall, talking to a wall. And it's like, he's not facing the thing. He's like, don't worry, he's got this. He's got this. And I like this moment where, again, he's pretending to be more blind than he is. And he's like, let me help. They're trying to get sympathy. And they're like, here, come back to the chair. He's like, oh, okay. Oh, I almost fell. And then he's just like, I wasn't expecting to do the chair bit.
Yeah, he's a little bit much. It's a little bit embarrassing.
It's a little bit much.
Yeah, that's more of the fun stuff between Matt and Foggy.
Which we don't have in the theatrical cut. That's the weird thing. In the theatrical cut, they're constantly talking about their client and stuff, and then we never see any of it. It's like, what is Foggy doing this whole movie? He just kind of just disappears.
Yeah, and now in the director's cut, well, I guess we haven't gotten to yet where Matt starts to become a little neglectful of the case.
Yes, we're not at that point yet. While they're there, we notice that Ben is also in the courthouse watching. So we don't know what Ben's deal is with Matt Murdock yet. Electra meets up with Matt. She found him.
Yep. I told you I'd find you.
And she tells him her backstory. Her mom was like killed in front of her. And then he tells her like, hey, I want you to stand in the rain. It's like, why? It's like there's a rooftop over the world and blah, 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 blah. And it's basically like, so the rain will hit you and I'll be able to see your face.
Yeah, it's a little melodramatic.
Yes.
It's a little cheesy.
Yes.
But I feel like if there was a little more buildup and there was more to their relationship than right now, it's basically a fairy tale love at first sight.
Yeah.
It's like I was saying earlier where the opening, 10 to 15 minute origin is like a montage of melodramatic moments. It's the same is true for their relationship. All you have is like, let's fight at the playground, and now we're standing in the rain because the world, has a roof over it. And then the cheesiness becomes extra cheesy.
Yeah.
Which in most other contexts is great. Extra cheesy,
Yes.
Cheetos. But
Now, real quick, in here, he hears a crime going and he goes to stop it. I don't think he does it in the theatrical version.
No,
He
so the
stays with her.
she's like, stay with me. And then they spend the night together.
Oh.
In the director's cut, he hears something and he goes to stop the crime.
Yes.
In the crime he goes to stop, I think that happened earlier in the theatrical one.
I think it did too.
Yeah.
But yeah, here he goes to stop that guy who's like roughing up the dude because he owes like the Kingpin money. We do get that cool shot of like the shadow on the wall, like the Daredevil shadow. That was actually pretty awesome. But yeah, he chases the guy all the way to his apartment and then beats the shit out of him in front of his son.
Right.
And that's where we get the whole like, I'm not the bad guy.
He says, I'm not the bad guy, kid. And then it cuts to him standing in the rain talking to himself.
Yeah.
I'm not the bad guy. I'm not the bad guy.
I'm not the bad guy.
But it's just like, well, Daredevil, put yourself in that kid's shoes. Like, the literal devil just walked in and kicked the shit out of his dad.
Yeah. And so, like, the point of this scene, I guess, is twofold. Like, one, it's this thematic point of I'm being too mean and I'm scaring people.
Yeah.
And then also the guy tells Daredevil, like, you think I'm scared of you? Kingpin owns this city now. So this is him finding out Kingpin owns the city now.
Yes. We're getting a lot of information here, a lot of inner turmoil here. But I'm glad he left to go stop crime, not just leave to go bang Electra. Seems a little selfish in the theatrical cut.
You're like, wait, what happened to that guy?
Yeah, and in the director's cut, you can't have him ignore 2 crimes. He already ignored the one, but like he had more of an excuse to ignore it. You can't have him like willingly ignore a crime.
Yeah,
That's
the girl
stupid.
bats her eyelashes at him and he lets the whole city go to hell.
Then he meets up with his priest friend, who knows him.
Yeah.
And I have here, I assume he grew up in like an orphanage run by the church. And he's constantly like, you could come to confession. We're open every Sunday. And he's just like, nah, I'm just going to sit here and brood. But yeah, they do have that one throwaway shot to like the nun staring at them.
Yeah.
Then Matt goes to work. And I feel like this scene happens earlier in the theatrical cut. It takes a while for him to get to his office. And they got Ellen Pompeo there as Karen Page.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot this character was in the movie.
Yeah, she's in like 1 or 2 scenes.
Yeah, well, in the theatrical cut, she's only in 1 scene. But yeah, from Grey's Anatomy. I've never actually watched it.
I've never seen it. Fun fact about Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
That ties into some movies you've been talking about, Final Destination.
Okay.
Did you come across, if you look at the screenplay, I think for Final Destination 4.
I at the time of this recording, I haven't shot my review yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the screenplay for it, it's very clear that the character Nick was originally named Tom because someone obviously did a find and replace for Tom to replace it with Nick.
Yeah.
But the word Tom, T-O-M, is in a lot of other words.
Yeah.
So like instead of bottom, it'll say like Botnik. And at one point, a character has the Grey's Anatomy book.
Yeah.
And so in the screenplay, it says like Grey's Anatomy.
That's the most ridiculous. That word replaced worked a little too well. Grey's Anatomy to me. They want to. I love that they just have gifts all over the office because they don't get paid in money.
Yeah.
There's like basketballs everywhere. But yeah, he tells them that she tells them that they're invited to a ball, but Matt doesn't want to go. And he's like, nah, I don't want to go. And then Foggy's like, come on, we got to go. And I like that he's like, you go. He's like, no, I'm a +1. I got to have someone go with me.
And you can tell Karen wants to be the +1. She's like, it has a +1.
Yeah.
And Foggy's like, yeah, it sure does.
Yeah. Because I think in the comic, Karen and Foggy get together, right?
Oh, man, I can't remember.
Or
It's
am
been
I
so long since
confusing
read
it? Because I think in the comics, Happy Hogan and Pepper get together. And I think I might be confusing those two. I don't know. Again, I didn't have time to reread all of them. I will skim through them at some point. They decide they're going to go. I do like when Foggy throws the basketball and misses and he just goes swish. So they go to the ball. Ben meets with Matt and Foggy and pesters him about alligators. Or Foggy pesters Ben about alligators.
Yeah.
He's like, are they in the sewer? He's like, it's a myth, kid. And like, again, Ben is like in the theatrical cut, it's just kind of implied he knows Matt is Daredevil.
Yeah.
But we don't know why he knows that. We don't know why he's thinking all these things. That's not the case in this version. In this version, it's kind of like, oh, does he know that he's Daredevil? Why is he taking an interest in Matt Murdock? We will find out soon. But here is when he looks at his cane. Daredevil. Just use a regular cane when you're not Daredevil. Why is he using his Daredevil cane with the little devil face on it? Why would he be using that?
And it's not like a thing where nobody, what kind of, who pays attention to a man's shoes? Who pays attention to a man's cane?
Yeah.
Like, people definitely pay attention, especially if you're using it as a weapon.
Yeah.
And then even, like, if you see a blind man and they're using an abnormal cane
Yeah.
with, like, a really cool red handle,
Yeah.
people are definitely going to notice.
Why is it overly designed in the first place? He can't see or appreciate it. Why would he? Why did he put the double D on his chest? Who's reading it? It's ridiculous. What do you think the MCU one is going to get the double D? You think he's going to get that?
Oh, man. I don't know. I guess we got to see him.
You think
Born Again.
you think it'll be in the patch here, or will it be a big double D like in the comics?
I hope he's just wearing that T-shirt. Yeah.
He's just wearing a Daredevil. Hey, at least he's wearing his suit again. That was my problem with season 3. Bullseye was wearing the suit.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, and apparently the original plan for Daredevil Born Again is that it was going to be more of a lawyer procedural and like a courtroom dramedy. And then he was, I think, wasn't supposed to wear the suit until like episode 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And then I guess during COVID, when all the productions were slowing down, or maybe during the writer's strike, the Marvel execs were like, can we see what you guys have been shooting over there on Daredevil? And they're like, maybe we should do like what everybody wants, which is a continuation of the Netflix show.
Why
maybe
wouldn't
we
they
should just do
that?
that?
Yeah. So stupid. I wonder how it's going to turn out. We'll find out. It'll be on our wrap up whenever it comes out, which is the month that this is airing, I assume. So look forward to it. So yeah, he has his stupid Daredevil cane, which he should not be walking around with in public. Foggy is excited to meet Wilson Fisk. He's excited because they don't know he's the Kingpin. Murdock assumes that he's a bad guy. He doesn't assume he's the Kingpin, but he assumes that he's the bad guy, a bad guy. And he like gets a job offer from him. He's like, no, we work for people who are innocent. And I like that Wilson Fisk is like, nobody is innocent.
Before, as soon as Wilson Fisk shows up, Foggy says, Wilson Fisk in the hizzy.
So stupid. Electra is there. She's showing off the cleavage, looking pretty good.
And Murdock says to her, now I found you.
Yes. And while that's happening, Wesley has a small scene with Froggy where he just totally rips him apart and just shits all over him. It's like, that's mean. Why were you so mean, guy? Your boss was nice to them. Can you just relax? But yes, they're Electra and Daredevil, or Matt Murdock, they're talking about their whole situation. He lets her know that nothing bad is going to happen. And then it just smash cuts to Bullseye getting on a motorcycle.
There are certain people where if they assure you, then you want to run away as far as you can. Yes. Like if Jack Bauer ever says, trust me, then you are definitely dead.
I'm like, oh, I'm dead. So yeah, Wilson threatens Nachios again. He's like, your daughter's beautiful, just like your wife was. He's like, why would you say that to me? And he's like, I just want to say goodbye. Like, Wilson should just be like, you will die tonight.
Yeah, there was something really corny about the fact that he says to Wilson, like, why would you bring that up now? Like it makes him look so oblivious to what's happening. Yeah. And there are certain characters in certain movies where you're like, how have you existed this long in this lifestyle if you are this bad at picking up on like all the double entendres and everything?
Also, Jennifer Garner Greek.
I don't know.
Well, they kept switching to Greek. I'm like, something about this just feels off. I don't know if this is authentic.
I wanted to get a, I have that soundboard at home.
Yeah.
I wanted to get a clip of you screaming, whoa, so I could just hit it. Like, is Jennifer Garner Greek? I'm going to hit that button right now. I don't think Ben Affleck is really blind.
What? So yeah, they leave the party, and he tells Electra to go with someone else, but she's like, no, Papa. Her saying Papa upset me. I don't know why it upset me. So she ends up going with him. When did Matt have time to switch into the Daredevil suit?
I don't know. I guess he must be wearing it underneath his
No.
suit.
No. It's
nanotechnology.
No, we know it's not because we saw him go back to his apartment. He has multiples on a rack. But could you imagine if he had the suit on underneath? Oh my God. Did you ever see, speaking of The Rock, did you ever see that old Saturday Night Live where The Rock was the host? They did a Superman skit, but the whole joke is that everyone in the office knows Clark is Superman. And like he comes in and his suit is real bulky and you see the Superman suit peeking from underneath. And he's like, hi, just normal reporter. Could you imagine Ben Affleck with the leather suit and then his suit on top of it?
And he keeps accidentally hitting the button that like shoots his cane out.
Listen, I'm sorry. Matt, why are you wearing red leather gloves? No reason. It was chilly. Yeah, I looked at that. I'm like, did he go all the way back to his apartment just to suit up and do this? Like, Spider-Man can get away with it. Superman to an extent. I don't know where he hides his boots and his cape. But no, like Batman and that, well, depending on what version of Batman it is, No, he had to have like stored his suit there, just assuming something was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, he must, like we saw earlier, where he's jumping around, grabbing clotheslines and stuff. Yeah. He always cases the place, sets up little ledges he can jump onto and off of.
Do you think he just has suits spread around the city?
There you go. That's what it's got to be.
That no one apparently can find. Yeah. It's like the Spider-Man game where he just webbed up old like backpacks and like not one person has found all 500 of these backpacks with all this information. Right. I do like the shot of all the angel statues and then him there. They used it for like one of the teaser trailers. It was a pretty cool reveal for him there. And it reminds me of an alternate version of Batman 89. Instead of Batman's first appearance being that weird 2D cartoon from the top down. Remember that when he's like on the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with that. Originally, it was going to be like Batman next to a bunch of gargoyles, and he was going to stand up next to them and be like, "Oh, cool, it's Batman."
I wish they did the same trick for Daredevil. Instead of him turning into like a CGI like gymnast, just do like 2D animation.
Bullseye shows up on the motorcycle, and Electra just has no idea this motorcycle exists, never sees Bullseye once during this whole thing. She sees a CGI Daredevil jumping on the rooftops, though. They get into a fight. Bullseye throws something at Daredevil, but Daredevil's super senses make him dodge it. And Bullseye's like, I missed?
I missed. I never miss.
I never miss.
You know, he does such a good job of playing that character as so deranged.
Yeah.
That the fact that his whole motivation the rest of the movie, Daredevil made me miss, I have to kill him.
Yes.
I bought it.
And it works because of how insane he's acting. Yeah. It's the other times you'd be like, that is a weak motivation for a villain. But it's like, oh no, he's fucked in the head. It kind of works for this. That is a funny motivation for him. I never miss. He picks up Daredevil's baton, yeah, and uses that to kill what's-his-face, Electra's dad.
Yeah.
So she sees the baton, and she sees Daredevil. She doesn't see Bullseye, who disappears. Because I guess there was like an explosion that kind of like knocked her out. They crash into the New York Post truck because there's no Daily Bugle in this universe. Yeah, so now she sees Daredevil and she's like, well, that guy killed my dad and I want him dead. You know, I guess she didn't see Bullseye, but she didn't hear his jacket making the rattlesnake sound as he left. Oh, and I forgot, CGI kick when he jumps on the motorcycle and kicks him off.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like total dog shit. So yeah, Daredevil goes home and breaks all of his shit out of anger.
That's right, yeah.
I don't know why he cared so much that a crime boss died. I know it's like his fling's dad, but
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess
he's a little too angry for the person who died.
Yeah, I feel like that's the problem with kind of the rest of the movie. Everything is a little too whatever it's trying to be.
Yeah.
Because again, him and Electra, they stood in the rain once.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the extent of their like shared history.
I mean, Wolverine's the worst. It's like, you made out with Jean Grey once, and she brought up her husband 5 seconds later. And like, for 3 movies after that, he's like, Jean, I love you so much.
It's like you call it a love triangle, and you're like, no. It's like a man and his wife, and then just some dude who showed up.
And then she entertained it for literally a second and immediately regretted it. Wolverine, you got to get the fuck over it.
And then that became like the thing which haunted him for the rest of time.
He never got a chance to bang her. I was upset. I mean,
well, you know, at the multiverse now, he's got plenty of chances.
He has multiple chances now. So yeah, Bullseye meets with Kingpin. He kills his guards.
Yep.
They're just dead on the ground.
Why'd you do that? For fun.
Yeah, for fun. So yeah, he's instructed to kill Electra because Kingpin kills your whole family. And then he asks in the theatrical version for a bloody costume. In the director's cut, a fucking costume. Mm-hmm. He never gets the costume.
No, and it's set up as such a like, do you need anything else? And he's like, yeah, I want a costume. Dun, dun, dun. And then he just doesn't have one.
He just doesn't have. He has a black shirt with like a logo on it, and I don't know if he was wearing that earlier.
So that's the costume he got him?
The rest of the outfit is just the outfit he's been wearing. I don't know if that was like, oh, we put your logo on a shirt. Oh, okay, cool. Like, that's not a costume at all. I maybe they were meant for like the sequel, I guess.
I don't know. Yeah. That would feel really like, and the Kingpin gives him the excuse, like, I just need a few weeks. I'm working on this costume. I think Bullseye wouldn't stand for that.
So then there's the trial for Coolio. It's happening again, But Matt is not there. It's
Yes.
just Foggy and Coolio. And I like that Foggy goes to read Matt's notes and it's all in Braille. And he's like, hold on. And Coolio's not being a good person on the stand. He's like, you don't own a handgun? He never want to own a handgun. He's like, nope, not at all. He's like, now, shotgun I would own because you actually hit more people. And he's like, oh, my God, stop.
It's like, so you were drunk that night? No, but I was very high.
Okay, that works. Although Foggy mentioned he was high earlier, so that's actually Foggy's fuck up. He should
Yeah,
have
true.
remembered. And then Evanescence plays at Electra's dad's funeral,
That's right.
and she wants revenge.
Yeah, and I like Daredevil tells her here, or Matt Murdock, revenge won't make the pain go away. Trust me, I know.
How does he know?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think he does know. I think he's just like, well, the person she wants revenge on is me. So I need to really sell the idea that revenge doesn't work. Like, trust me, you don't want it.
There should have been a line where there should have been something where like early on he took down Fallon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything of like, I went out and killed who I thought was responsible for killing my dad.
Unless we're supposed to believe that the Quesada guy he killed was him getting revenge. Yeah, that's stupid. Because that wasn't even like personal revenge. He was trying to avenge the girl who got abused. But I'm just like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, that line. I think we needed a line where like he like killed the guy who killed his dad.
Yeah.
Or the guy who ordered the kill, not the one who physically did it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Ben lets Matt know that his client is innocent. So we figure out this is why Ben is so interested in Matt Murdock. Theatrical cut, it's just he guesses that he's Daredevil.
Yeah.
We don't know why. But yeah, he figures it out here. He's like, hey, the prostitute was my informant. And he's like, she didn't work for the mob. He's like, but she slept with guys who did. They would talk. She would learn things. And I forgot to mention earlier in the trial, he does his lie detector with the cop. And he's like, the cop's telling the truth.
That's right, yeah.
But he also knows Coolio's telling the truth. So
How
it's a
could
little
that be?
confusing. But then Ben says, like, no, I have a brother who sold that guy like a nice Mercedes. And it's like, but he was telling the truth. He's like, that car costs like 3 years of a cop's salary. He's like, he is not telling the truth. You got to look into it. So that actually makes way more sense why Ben is involved with this. Because they're doing the trial for the guy who murdered his thing. It just fits so much better.
Yeah.
Because we never learned. I'm like, I would have liked to have seen where he got the idea that Ben was Daredevil. Why the whole Daredevil thing is like a coincidence in this.
Yeah, like if you're putting points on the board of theatrical versus director's cut,
Yeah.
I think we can say at a minimum the director's cut improves on the movie makes more sense.
Yes.
And there are slightly expanded scenes that put like more texture
Yeah.
into the Foggy Matt relationship and things like that.
And you get more Coolio.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
That's true.
Rest in peace. He did so good in Leprechaun in the Hood that it's landed him the role in this.
That
And
makes sense.
I believe it was either the same year, maybe the year before, he was in Dracula 3000. Not a sequel to Dracula 2000. It's a completely separate. There are sequels to that movie, but Dracula 3000, completely different movie. It's about Dracula in space.
That makes sense.
Yes, and Coolio is like the Renfield character, if I remember right. This might shock you, Gil, but I'm having trouble remembering everything that happened in Dracula 3000.
Dracula timeline?
Dracula timeline. Let's go. I did just, let me bring it up here because at this point, my Godzilla podcast is still on hiatus. We have a Twitch now, though. We are on Twitch. We will go live on Twitch, and our archive will be on Rumble and the audio feeds.
All right.
We're not even going to bother with YouTube anymore. There's a book out right now, 3-issue series called Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater, where Godzilla fights all the famous literary characters.
That's cool.
The Great Gatsby builds a team to take down Godzilla. It's Sherlock Holmes, Jules Verne, who's a cyborg.
So it's Godzilla versus all the public domain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and Dracula because Godzilla takes over London and Dracula sees him, he's like, I could use a giant lizard. And he also wants whoever the chick in Great Gatsby is, he wants her as a bride. So yeah, you get to see Dracula and the Great Gatsby turn into giants and they fight
Oh my
Godzilla.
God.
Put that in your timeline.
Okay. I'm on it.
Sorry, one last thing about that. At one point, Godzilla steps on the Great Pyramids and he wakes up a mummy. And the mummy's curse is that he has to kill whoever disturbs his sleep. So the mummy walks all the way to Transylvania to kill Godzilla. And you're like, how's that going to work out? But luckily, the magic growing ring that Dracula has hits the mummy
Oh
as
my
soon as
God.
it arrives. It's the best work of fiction I've read in a long time.
You know what? You can. I'll leave this like addendum to the timeline. Can be your little corner of it. You can have it.
Sorry, I was talking about a comic book thing I like. Back to the Daredevil movie. So I do like the scene where Matt doesn't even get into the Daredevil outfit. He just confronts the cop. He gets in his Mercedes and he's like, oh, I'm gonna drive, because the guy's like, oh, you're blind, so he just starts crashing the car until he gives him the answers that he wants, where he was framed and everything, and he was doing it in pain. He's like, why can't I? He's like, why is your heart not changing? And then he rips off his shirt. He's like, oh, you got a fucking pacemaker in.
Wait, that's pretty genius.
Yeah.
The pacemaker regulates the guy's heartbeat, so he can't tell when he's lying.
Yes. Although I feel like the guy should be like, why did you rip my shirt off to see my heartbeat with the why did you mention heartbeats at all? I don't understand. Do you have some kind of superpower I'm not aware of?
So wait, am I not wearing the, oh God, I forgot to put the suit on.
And then he crashes the car some more.
Yeah.
Oh, and he tells him, like, yes, the Kingpin will kill everyone's family, which lets him know, like, oh shit, Electra's in danger.
Right. He'll kill not just you, but everyone in your family.
Yes. Whereas in the other version, he's just like, I'm going to go to Electra's house now, I guess. Or she just finds him somewhere.
Yeah, I forget.
It's still a little confusing how they all link up in a couple minutes.
I guess that's the theme of the theatrical cut. It's like, why did you run into his dad? It's like, well, I decided to take a shortcut that day.
They just all bump into each other. So Karen and Foggy have a little scene together.
That's right.
But she realizes mom 6 to 9 or whatever is upside down. And it says, wow. And then he remembers the card he got from Wesley. It was like Wesley something Wessler. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like Wesley something with an O and then something with a
W. His initials are wow.
Yeah. Well, I loved, I don't know, for some reason, Jon Favreau's delivery there really like worked for me, where he's like, wow, 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 wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so that like clues him in, like, oh shit, the Kingpin's guy had a meeting with this girl. So we got to look into that. And Karen had something to do. She only has 2 scenes, but she helps.
That's right.
And then there's a mortician or a coroner at the morgue called Jack Kirby. Who plays him?
So I don't know if you know Kevin Smith.
Yes.
Clerks.
Cries a lot.
He does cry a lot.
Yeah.
Wrote some Daredevil comics.
Right.
He, very subtle cameo appearance here in this scene. He's the coroner.
What? No. He disappeared into that role. I
Yeah.
had no idea it was him. Oh my God. Next, you're going to tell me Patton Oswalt was in Blade Trinity. What if the...
I don't think so. Might have been a cousin or something. You know how many cousins he has?
Yeah, Patton Oswalt has so many cousins. He shows him Matt Murdock's cane that was retrieved from the crime. Apparently, Daredevil didn't have 5 seconds to go grab his cane or just retrieve it later on. But yeah, Ben is just like, why are you showing me this? I don't care. He's like, I thought you wanted me to tell you if I found anything weird. And then he like shows him that like if you hit a button, it like
The cane shoots out.
yeah, which I don't think is that like impressive. Like I don't think it's weird.
It is weird though.
It is weird,
odd.
but I'd be like, oh, he's a blind guy. He's got a fancier cane than most people, I guess.
Well, did they have reason?
The hooks were
Yeah.
a little bit more interesting than just the walking.
Yeah,
part
if he
coming
showed him, like if Kevin Smith shot out the retractable thing and started like, swinging around the room, it's like pretty weird, huh?
Yeah.
I told you.
But yeah, then he realizes like, oh shit, Matt Murdock is Daredevil. I don't understand how that works. Then we get, then in addition to the scene is Foggy calling Ben about Wesley. So they add that on in this director's cuts, kind of tying those plot lines together a little bit more. And then we don't have time to hear the rest of that phone call because we got to see Electra fighting to more Evanescence music.
Yeah, and she took one of her little training bags or whatever and drew Daredevil's face on it. Oh.
Wake me up in soccer. But I love the goof I was reading. She is like totally using the size wrong.
Oh, really?
You're not supposed to put your fingers in there because they're meant to like tangle
I feel like
other
I would have
weapons.
known that, yeah.
And they're also not like sharp. They're meant to be like stabbed, not like slicing. They're just completely impractical. But whatever.
That's, some of that budget that they put into the little cartoon guy jumping around that could have diverted into some fight training.
But yeah, she rocks out to Evanescence. But yeah, she's wearing a very dark costume. It doesn't look like the classic Electra red costume.
No, and no headband or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't never give her the headband. They should have gave it to her in Deadpool.
I don't know why, yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine should have just gave her the headband.
I was just curious after watching this movie, because I hadn't seen it in so long.
Yeah.
If you then go to Deadpool Wolverine, like how consistent does her character feel? And but then I realized the problem is there is nothing to her character.
Yeah.
There's like nothing I could point at and be like, Electra wouldn't have said that.
I mean, maybe I haven't seen the Electra movie, so I don't know how accurate
I
it was.
almost watched it for this, and I was like, you know what? I'm only going to do so much homework. This is starting to feel
maybe.
too much.
I feel like I'll eventually do Electra.
Yeah.
The movie. Nah, I'm not actually going to do Electra, either version. But yeah, no, she doesn't wear the red suit. She gets it in the next film, minus the headband. But even the MCU one, she wore a little bit of red in Defenders.
Yeah.
But yeah, she never wore the headband. She just had like the mask on. Not as cool. And she goes up to the rooftop and Daredevil's there. I guess. Yeah, actually, in this version, it makes more sense he would be there because the guy told him that she was going to die.
Her whole family's going down.
Yeah.
So he's going to check
So that
up on
makes,
her.
all right, for Daredevil and Electra to interact here, it makes more sense in this version.
Yes.
There's another character that shows up, and I'm like, wait, what? How did he know they would be at that exact moment right there? So yeah, they fight for a bit, and she's able to get the upper hand on him.
Well, because he's holding back.
He is holding
She
back.
isn't.
Yeah.
Because to her, this is just the guy who killed my dad.
Yeah, but to him, that's the love of his life.
That's right.
Because he kissed in the rain.
That's right, yeah. And I think in this version, they didn't even kiss in the rain, right? Because he left to go stop that crime.
He might have.
They might have kissed.
He might have kissed, but they didn't do anything else.
No.
So he's putting all on the line for, dude, relax, buddy. They get into a decent fight. She puts the scythe through his like shoulder, and she unmasks him.
Yeah.
But then, like, she won't listen to him when he's in the Daredevil outfit. And then he takes the outfit off. He's like, Bullseye did it. She's like, now I believe you.
Yeah, I was surprised at how easily that worked.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Spider-Man where Harry unmasked Spider-Man. It's like, oh my God, Peter, you're the one who killed my dad?
Yeah.
It wasn't like, Peter, there's no way you could have done this, so I believe you now.
Yeah.
So it worked out very cleanly for Daredevil.
Although,
here.
I think we might have mentioned it. Like, Peter doesn't do a good job of that situation.
No.
He's like, look, I'm real busy now. I got to go stop this thing. He could have just thrown him like, look, it was an accident. I wasn't actually. I'll come back and tell you the whole story. I got to go stop the sun machine.
Yeah, they never do it. They never properly explain themselves.
Yeah.
It's like, you make yourself look as guilty as possible.
So then Bullseye shows up. And I guess he was going to kill Electra, but how did he know, like, she would be on the rooftops fighting Daredevil?
I guess he usually that's how Bullseye gets in. He comes in through the rooftop.
Yeah, why is he on the rooftops? He's not a rooftop jumping superhero villain guy. I feel like he would just like go to her house and be like, oh, she's not home.
Yeah, there's also, I guess it kind of works because he's so good with his hands, but like the magic angle.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like carrying playing cards around and stuff. Yeah.
Magic. But yeah, he gets into a fight with Electra, and Daredevil can't help because he's like incapacitated,
Right.
And she's just not strong enough for Bullseye. He beats the shit out of her
with a playing card.
and she's not 100% because he throws the sai right into her hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he uses the playing card. I think he like cuts her throat with it, and then he stabs her like he does in the comics.
Yep.
Because Bullseye is the one who did it. I know they changed it for Netflix. That Ninja did it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they bring Bullseye in like the season later. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, he kills her, and I think in this version he like kisses her before he throws her body.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember thinking he's about to.
Yeah.
And then in this version he does.
Yeah, and then a CGI helicopter shows up. And he flees from the CGI helicopter. But yeah, then like Electra's like, or she says earlier before she goes to fight Bullseye, she's like, I'll find you.
Yeah.
In case I die, I'll find you. But yeah, she dies, and the Daredevil's all sad.
Yep. And then this is what leads into the opening, right? Where he was like bleeding out in the church.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, Bullseye throws the rose down
Yeah.
to connect it a little bit more. So yeah, we finally arrive at the beginning of the movie. The priest starts to hear his confession, but then Bullseye interrupts because Bullseye's there. He knew he would be there.
Maybe his sense of smell is just as good. Or he was following this squeaking rubber all across the city.
Did he follow the trail of blood? Because
Yeah.
he's bleeding a lot.
Well, and like what bothered me was how's he going to come back from this? Like, he's horribly wounded, and now this killer showed up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a Spider-Man moment where he lifts the debris, you know, that motivational thing. Here it was just stand up and just start fighting
he
again
just is magically
no
okay. He took
of,
like a breather or something. He didn't even patch his shoulder up.
Yeah, if I was Electra, you know, watching from from hell or wherever she went, I'd be like, hey, you could have easily saved me.
There is no reason for why he's so good in this fight coming up.
Yeah. And even after Bullseye realized his greatest weakness is sound.
And also his strength. Again, it's very confusing. But no, I don't know how Bullseye found him there unless he followed him. But then how did Daredevil not realize he was followed?
Well, maybe it was like Spider-Man 3, where Topher Grace finds Peter at the church because he was just going to the church because he wanted to pray for revenge. So Bullseye was like, I'm out of options. Maybe God can help me.
Look what my lucky day. Daredevil is at the church.
Speak of the devil.
So they fight, and it's more rubbery CGI. This is the worst part where they're fighting on the giant pipe organ.
Yeah.
And it just looks like a video game. This actually did have a tie-in video game, which I own for the Game Boy Advance.
Was it good? What was it, like side scroll? Like,
it was a side scroll. I remember playing it and not liking it much.
Oh.
I was thinking of doing a video on it, but I don't have like a Retron, so I need to get a Retron to back up the footage.
All right, Tony, I'll get you a Retron. Fine.
If you want to donate a Retron 5, you can. I should just get one. They're not that expensive. Yeah. But I do still own. I found all my sister's like old Game Boy Advance games. I'm like, oh, there's fucking Daredevil. But yeah, this is so video game-ish, them jumping on the pipe organs. Again, looking super... Bullseye in CGI looks really bad.
Yeah. At least like if Daredevil looks like rubber, he's basically covered in rubber anyway, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And also, how big is this goddamn pipe organ? What kind of fucking music are they playing in this place?
Yeah, this is like The Shining, where once you get inside the building, the actual internal architecture doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The church is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
And then also, how many... There's just bats living in there?
Yeah.
1 or 2 bats, maybe. A swarm of bats? I'm like, dude, your church has a problem. You would have noticed, like, bat shit everywhere. So yeah, they fight some more. I like that he runs out of his throwing stars. Because Daredevil dodged all of them, which is pissing him off. So he kicks the glass and collects the glass. And he's taking so much time that Daredevil had so much time to just throw something at him. And then he throws them all at Daredevil. It's so stupid. But yeah, this is where he, like, the sniper, which I think they set up the sniper a little bit better in this version. Is across the roof. He hears the sniper about to shoot, and he puts Bullseye's hands up where the bullet's gonna go, which is pretty cool.
That was cool.
My hands!
Yeah.
You took my hands!
Well, he like presents them. He's like, look what you did to me.
And then he asks for mercy.
Yeah.
And Daredevil, who's been conflicted about if he should kill or not, throws Bullseye out the goddamn window.
And
into Ben's car.
Yeah, which seemed to be on purpose, because then he said right after, Bullseye.
Yeah. But Ben has more of a reason to be here because he's there to let the detective know, like, I have information that will lead to Wilson Fisk being the Kingpin. Because in the theatrical cut, he's just driving by.
Yeah.
And then in the theatrical cut, they're like, yeah, everyone knows you're the Kingpin. It's like, how? Wait, how? When? When did they know that?
Kingpin drops his report card. Yeah. How did this happen?
Oh, and Colin Farrell reveals to him here that Kingpin is the one who wants the roses thrown. And then he ties it to his dad. He's like, oh my God, Kingpin is the one who killed my dad. So yeah, Bullseye is like dead. Not really. So then Kingpin just assumes Daredevil will know who he is and be making his way there. And he's like, how do you know he's coming here? He's like, because that's what I would do.
I grew up in the Bronx. You wouldn't understand.
I'm like, I need a little bit more information. Wait, how do you know that Bullseye ratted you out?
He must have had like a police radio. And he overheard, like, there was Bullseye was thrown out of a church.
Yeah.
Okay, so Daredevil must have won that fight.
But
And
how does he know that
If I know Bullseye, then I know he probably would have told him right before.
It just. I know they have to have a big fight with the Kingpin at the end, but it just feels the setup is very weak for it.
Yeah. That's true of a lot of things in this movie. Like,
yeah.
The problem is
not
the
a
lack
lot of
setup.
good setup. Oh, and while he's waiting for the fight, Wesley goes to the bar. And the cop shows up there, and he's just like, I don't want to talk to anyone without my lawyer. He's like, I haven't even said what you did yet. So, yeah, he's apparently the one who's going to rat out the Kingpin. So there's more of a reason for how the Kingpin gets exposed in this cut. But, yeah, Kingpin gets ready for the fight. And this fight is a little bit better than the previous one because there's not enough room for them to turn into CGI rubbery dummies.
And I thought it was cool how Daredevil sets off the sprinklers to give him a better radar sense.
The wire work is a little rough here and there, though.
Yeah, well, the fact that Kingpin can like punch him and he goes flying across the room.
And I like that they have to mention that Daredevil is not 100%, or else he probably would have easily won this fight against Kingpin. Although Kingpin's just like, I would have liked to fight you in your prime. But yeah, he's just like, yeah, I was working for Fallon in those days and I killed your dad because he unmasks him. He's like the blind lawyer. But I like that he like slides under his legs and kicks his knees out.
Yeah.
Which like looks like it fucking hurts. But yeah, Daredevil gets the upper hand. So he says, hey, I'm going to tell everyone your secret. And Daredevil's just like, yeah. And everyone's going to laugh at you for getting your ass kicked by a blind guy. And Kingpin's like, I don't really care about that. But yeah, he's just like, no one will believe you. And then he walks away, but leaves his cowl there. It's like, what? Your hair is in that. You have evidence in there. It's molded to your face. I don't know why you got it custom molded to your face, but they're going to know that's you, buddy. He spares Kingpin's life.
Yeah. And that's basically the arc of the movie, right? He went from a guy that will cut you in half to he'll spare your life.
5 minutes before this, he threw a guy out of the window with the intention of killing him.
Well, nobody dies when they fall in a car. If I've learned anything from movies, if I learned anything from John Wick, if you fall in a car, especially if you roll after you land.
You know what? We did Saving Silverman a few weeks back, and Jason Biggs throws Steve Zahn and Jack Black onto a car, and they both survive. So you're right.
See?
And then Arlie Ermy gets hit by a car, and he lives.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, so now I don't really know what I'm defending here, because my whole point is that this didn't make any sense. There is nothing in the movie that shows why he transformed from a cold-hearted killer.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess other than the scene where that little boy was crying because he beat up his dad.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not the bad guy. But if like your entire arc is not summarized, but literally takes place in one scene, you probably have a problem.
Yes. But luckily there is a bit of a happy ending because
Bullseye's alive.
No. Coolio gets exonerated. I love him with Foggy. He's like, you're like a brother to me. I'm going to help you out, man. They're like hugging constantly. Matt still denies that the Daredevil exists or that alligators exist. And there's a moment where he thinks Electra's walking in. I'm like, you know how many women walk in with perfume? Like, dude, relax.
Oh, you have to assume he's done that about 30 times already by the time we see them.
Matt stops by the church. He doesn't go in, but he meets with Ben. And Ben gives him the heads up. He's like, hey, I just want you to know, I know you're Daredevil.
Yeah, or the way he says it, he's very coded. He's like, I'm writing a story. Justice is blind. Come on, Matt.
Yeah. And he tells him, he's like, I'm a reporter. I'm going to do it. He's like, I'll be ruined if you do this. He's like, oh, that sucks. Although I feel like they would really he has enough time to like get rid of all the evidence and stuff.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, how do you know this is me?
But seeing how inept he's been at like keeping his identity
he does
secret,
really
he
suck at it.
somehow.
Yeah. Hey, your walking stick matches the cowl that we found at Kingpin's place.
Also, you're wearing your Daredevil boots. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, I like that they put Kingpin in jail right next to Wesley. I'm like, oh, that guy's dead. That guy's super dead.
He's going to reach through the bars.
Yeah. And then we see Bullseye in the hospital, which in the theatrical version is like a post-credit scene.
That's right.
Which I forgot even existed. Because I watched the theatrical cut first, and it just like I just had it play when I was like done. I was like walking around. I'm like, wait, is there an extra scene? I'm like, I don't think I had ever actually seen that scene before.
Yeah, I stopped watching, and then like when I went to close the window, I accidentally moved my mouse over like the progress bar at the bottom. I was like, wait, what is that?
Where he's all like crippled and everything, but he picks up a needle. He's able to kill a fly, so he's still got it. And then Daredevil finds Electra's necklace, but now it's like written in Braille, implying that she's alive.
Yep.
I guess. I mean, I know they bring her back to life in the next one, but I don't know how she has time to leave that there.
Yeah, it's really strange that Electra then takes a supernatural turn where like the hand just exists and there's resurrection. But yeah, on top of that, she went and like reworked the necklace to make it Braille. When I don't know, I feel like by this point she should know like how super powered Matt is. It doesn't. I guess making it Braille is like her message to him. Like,
I wonder how much time has passed. Does the whole Electra movie take place in like 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's one of those things that when I think about it, it starts to give me a lot of like anxiety. It's the same thing at the end of Shawshank Redemption, where he's giving him the instructions, like, go to this place. You'll find one rock that looks a little bit out of place and lift it up. And I'm like, what if somebody moves the rock?
Yeah.
What if he doesn't recognize the rock? And I'm thinking about Electra, like, you're going to put that necklace there. And like, as far as you know, the only time he comes up here is when he's bringing a girl up to show her.
Yeah.
So it's going to make like a very awkward date for him. What is that necklace? I don't know.
So he's happy that she's alive. Ben deletes the story.
Yeah.
Just deletes it all. And he says, like, go get him, Tiger. Not really, but something like that. And then we end on one last rubbery CGI shot of Daredevil. Oh, yeah. Look, it's better than the theatrical cut.
I don't know. I've been struggling over this the last few days because I feel like, okay, I went to the scoreboard earlier. There's a couple things it definitely improves. But at the same time, the whole Coolio, like the thing this movie is lacking is that emotional core where there's no stakes. And I'm not saying, again, the stakes need to be big.
Sorry. It's still not a good movie.
Right.
It's better than the theatrical cut.
Yeah, the thing I'm struggling with is if it's not a good movie, making it longer by default makes the experience a little bit worse. But I guess,
can see that.
To be fair, there are some cool things. Like the pacemaker thing, that just is a fun detail. You get to see him do some actual investigative
That whole like
work.
little trial where they're actually doing their job is fine because it's such a background thing in the theatrical cut where like it didn't even really matter at that point.
Yeah, and I think I react to... For years, I saw people saying how much of an improvement it is over the theatrical cut. So it got so built up where I'm like, I'm going to watch an actual good version of the Daredevil movie.
No.
And then you're like, I don't know.
What you get is a okay version of a Daredevil movie. It's still not great. It still has all the stuff, like it still has all the bad action that I don't like from the movie.
Yes. And then like the Coolio subplot is so cheesy. Like they kind of figure out all the pieces of why he's not actually guilty, but you don't really see them carry that to fruition. Yeah. It just cuts to like, thank you for making sure I don't go to jail because I'm innocent. Yeah. And you don't really care one way or another other than like in the theoretical sense, I don't want a not guilty person to go to jail. But like my memory of the director's cut, 15 years later with the Coolio subplot was like, he shows up and he's like, I'm innocent, but they think I'm guilty. Cut to, I'm free now. Thank you so much. It wasn't quite that egregious, but it kind of is.
I think we needed it. He's the glue that held that together. That'd be like taking me out of the stadium in The Dark Knight Rises, Gil. The movie doesn't work.
You're right. And as we saw in the Christmas special, that would have created an entirely different timeline.
Also, I do like, we forgot to mention, Kevin Feige was involved with this.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's a quote of him saying, like, this is the greatest superhero script he's seen. At some point,
maybe there was an earlier version that worked.
It's possible.
But I have some stuff here from when it came out. So yeah, I think the movie made money enough to make an Electra sequel. Although I don't think that one did well.
I don't think so.
Affleck himself disliked and disowned the film, and said that it inspired him to take on the role of Batman in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. That's the movie I want to do. I want to be part of that. Part of it was I wanted for once to get one of these movies and do it right and do a good version. I hate Daredevil so much. And he called it kind of silly. Well, too bad, Ben, because all your Batman movies kind of sucked.
There was a great quote from him where he was like, wearing that Daredevil suit was a great humiliation for me.
Funny enough, he did come back apparently Jennifer Garner got him to come back in a scene that ended up being deleted where she like dreams about Matt Murdock.
Yeah, where he's like, come back to me. And she's like, when I'm ready, I'll come back.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And then they cut it out of the movie anyway.
Yeah. And there was concept art for Deadpool Wolverine where you see Daredevil and Ghost Rider in the fight with all the Deadpools at the end.
Yeah.
So there was a version of the movie with him in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he just did the Flash. I think he was fine.
Yeah, he was like, that's enough like legacy cameos for me.
He needs a break. He needs a break. Also, I think they did like a bunch of like, didn't they have like fake characters on set? Like I remember there was like a comic accurate Cyclops on set, but it was never meant to be in the movie. It was just to throw off people taking set photos.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
So yeah, then I have a quote from the director.
All right.
And I agree with this. Actually, what he's about to say reminds me of another movie I'm doing later this year, Judge Dredd, which tried to do too much of the 2000 AD comics, but that episode's already shot, but it won't come out till way later. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, looking back on it, one of the mistakes I made with the film was wanting to put everything in. I wanted to do Daredevil's origin story, and I wanted to do the Electra saga, and I wanted to introduce Bullseye and Foggy. I wanted everything to be in there, but the film could only support so much. And then when you're told to cut a half hour out and make it more of a love story, things start to feel rushed and not quite right. It's a fan thing. When you love something so much, you want to tell it all. Other movies have done that since then too, like the first Aquaman, which I like, but it felt like they thought they would only ever get one crack at Aquaman, so they did everything.
Which that was probably the correct instinct. Like that movie took off in a way I don't think anybody expected.
Yes, and then the second one just kind of which I didn't even hate, but it was just kind of
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the theory people didn't go to the theater to see it because it's like everyone already knows the DCEU is ending.
Yeah,
I don't know if the average citizen knows that though. I think they're like, if the movie looks good and there's good word of mouth, I'm going to go see it.
Well, also people didn't like Amber Heard anymore, and they knew that she was in it. She was kind of in it.
Kind of, yeah.
So barely in it. Karen Page was more present in the plot of this movie with 2 scenes than Amber Heard in all of Aquaman.
Well, Amber Heard, it was even more egregious because she's there but just like can't speak.
Yes.
So it's like she's just standing in the background.
And it's weird that she was such a big character in the first film and then she's a side character. Anyway, that is Daredevil, the director's cut. I do think it's better, but it's still not very good.
I'll go on record and say I agree that it is better, but by a very small margin.
Yeah, but look, it gave me this cool, I didn't really show it off, this cool shiny shirt. Is it shining on camera? Is it showing off?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if you keep turning like that especially.
It's textured too.
Very cool.
Feels
Let me see that.
Yeah, here.
Yeah. Wow. And I can tell he's been working out.
I actually think that's also why I didn't watch the shirt this much, because like I don't know what this material is, but I think it's gonna break
just
down,
gonna wash away everything on it.
So let me just keep it on standby for over 20 years until I eventually do a big episode on it.
Some part of you knew this was coming.
Yeah. But yeah, that is Daredevil, and I think the day this episode comes out, Daredevil Born Again is coming out a day later. So
perfect.
Get excited for Daredevil Born Again. And if you're like me, if you don't have time to watch all the Netflix show, subscribe to Mint Salad's channel where she's recapping them all. It's so exciting. She also did Penguin. When Penguin Season 2 comes out, I'm just going to watch her videos. Not even my episode or your episode. I'm going to watch her episodes. And let me know if I should do Electra at some point. But when it comes to 2000s superheroes, I got other fish to fry this year. I got to do the Christopher Nolan Batmans. Finally.
Oh, wow.
Finally. I can't avoid it anymore. It's the 20th anniversary of Batman Begins. I got to at least start them.
You have to. You have to go back to the stadium. Shoot the episode.
Well, I did go back to the stadium over the summer. I did that vlog where I return to the stadium. Now it's the Acrisure Stadium. It used to be Heinz Field. And there's a new Fantastic Four. And remember, in 2005, another Fantastic Four came out. So I'm going to be, before that movie comes out, we're going to do the new movie on a wrap up. I'm not dedicating a full episode to it.
Okay.
And I will be doing a what is the worst Fantastic Four so far before that. And I'm including the Roger Corman one. Is it the worst one? Who knows? But yeah, look forward to all of that this year. Sorry I did too many comedy reviews in February. I'll do superheroes again. Please keep watching the channel. I'll do superheroes. Please. Please. They don't like comedy, Gil.
Really?
They don't, which confuses me why they watch this
strange,
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very
I
strange.
come to hack the movies for a serious analysis of the storytelling technique.
But I'm like, I'm just making jokes the whole time. But apparently comedies they don't like. Gil, what do you got going on?
Actually, if you enjoyed this, then I have the MCU timeline, a 7-hour epic that tells the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe in chronological order. And thanks to Deadpool Wolverine, which has smashed all of the Fox superhero movies into the same continuity, I do think YouTube has a 12-hour limit on video uploads.
Yeah.
So it might have to remain as 2 separate videos. You have the MCU proper, and then I'm going to take my X-Men timeline and expand it into an X-Men and Friends timeline.
Okay.
Daredevil will be in there, Punisher, all
Gotcha.
the Fantastic Four movies. So look forward to that.
Nice.
But
Nice.
first, watch Mint Salad's recap of all this stuff.
I don't know how this became a secret
I
plug
don't know
for
why.
Mint Salad.
I was just following your lead.
I'm in a good mood. She bought me a gift to make up for yelling at me. We can't talk about it on air, but she yelled at me for something I didn't even do, and she felt guilty about it, and she got me something really cool. So I'm in a good mood today. Thank you, Mint. Mint Salad. She's great. She's great.
It's fantastic.
I should do a lecture with her. I should film an Electra review with her. I'm sure she'll have a lot to say about that.
Screw me, I guess.
You can be in it too.
Okay.
You don't live that far.
Yeah,
We're like neighbors, basically.
that's true.
You come here, you hang out at breweries. Your brother gives me bad dating advice. I go to New York, I sneak you into Patreon headquarters.
That's true. That's weirdly accurate.
Still feel bad about that. I like that they still email me though. Like I was like, oh, I'm definitely not going to get an invite back.
That